Check. We live? All right. Hola, YouTube. There's people in the Discord already, but they're both muted. I wasn't even going to open the Discord, but I don't know. If those two guys want to watch this with me, they can, but I don't want to do like a whole panel with a bunch of people because people can't watch a video with that many people. We can't watch a video with that many people. I can't stand when people try. Unless everybody's just sitting there quietly, I guess. Some people can do it, I guess. Sorry, guys. It's been a couple days. I've been skipping out on the Bible studies for a minute. We're behind on our schedule. Pretty far behind. But we got a debate coming up, and it's 10-minute openings. So the longest opening I've ever done, but I don't think I'm going to write a 10-minute opening. I think I'm going to write like a 6-7-minute opening and then leave 3 minutes because there's no rebuttal period. I'm going to write, because he's the affirmative. Oh, by the way, in case you're watching this in the future, the debate is me and John Moseman on should politics and Christianity mix. Do politics and Christianity mix? Let me read the exact wording to you. Let me read the exact wording. Oh, and if you didn't notice, it's been a couple days because I got some toys with the super chat money. Thank you guys for the grift. Do you notice the light looks different? Do you notice there's like not a lot of shadowage? We got a new fancy light up here. And check this out. I can control it from my phone. We can make it cold. We can make it hot. I like it right around here. And then we can make it bright. Ooh, damn. We're getting hit by the sun. Or we can make it dark. But even when it's darkest, it's still pretty bright. Like, this is at 8. Oh, wait, no, this is at 0. Hold on, we go to like 6. It's morning time. I can't have that bright. This is 6%. So we have the main light and the key light, or the, I don't know what they're called. And then I got some monitors, some studio monitors, because eventually I want to get a keyboard, which won't always be here, but I can put it here, hook it to the interface. Unfortunately, they didn't come with the right wires, so I have, right now, I don't even have the studio monitors hooked to the interface. They're hooked to the computer. But this is a pretty cool monitor. So for a minute, I'm going to listen to one of my favorite Joyner Lucas songs on these speakers before I get started. You guys aren't really going to be able to hear it, but you can hear it through the mic. Too many times I told these niggas, stop playing with me, go play with your kids. I don't want to hear no opinions of people who still got dreams of making it big. We got to switch the audio to the headphones. Microphone, headphone, speakers, headphones. No. Speakers. Oh, here we go. All right. Check, check, check. Monitor. Monitor, monitor. Hello. Check, check. Hold on. Check, check, check. Okay, it's monitoring. Hello, hello, hello. Delay, delay, delay. All right. So anyway, now we'll make sure we got the audio coming from here.
Warning. The information shared in
You guys hear that?
these conversations and videos are intended for general knowledge.
Okay. Sorry, Easy. I'm going to skip your intro. So we're doing debate prep. I got to get to it. I've been doing stuff. I've been studying up. Today we're gonna look a little into Tolstoy. I think that's a lot of where John's going with this is Tolstoy's idea of Christian anarchy. And I've talked to him a lot about it, and he's talked about Tolstoy. And when I just read the basic synopsis of Tolstoy's Christian anarchist ideas, um, it seems like where John's going, what he believes in. And so we'll look into that. But first, we're gonna watch this debate. This is I can't see my chat. This is John Moseman, who we're gonna debate about Christianity and politics. We're gonna read his roadmap to the debate, so where he's coming from. And I was doing something and I got distracted. Can you feel beat within my heart? Okay, the topic is Christianity should not be political. Christianity should not be political. So where John's coming from, I'm going to read this. Where is it? He told me I could read it. So, definitions, he says, Christianity is a formal religion based on the teachings of Jesus Christ. Okay, well, that right there, if we're saying Christianity is a formal religion, then that right there disproves the topic. Formal religion requires hierarchy, authority, organization, structure, all these things that are political. I'm going to write some notes. I need to make a little web. What's the debate? Christianity should not be political. And right in his definition, if he says a formal religion, I won't even know if I would use the word. I guess I would use the word religion colloquially. I would say, yeah, I agree with that. I'll agree with that definition. But the problem is, if Christianity is a formal religion, it's inherently political, which is my whole argument, by the way. That and a little story about me. I was never real political because I didn't think I could vote. Because in my past life, I was a dang criminal. So I didn't think I could vote. But turns out in Utah, you can vote. So I was focused on getting back to God to get my life on track because it was bad. I won't say it was rock bottom because every time I ever said I was at rock bottom, it got worse. So there was a farther rock bottom. But I think I was at rock. I haven't, never say never, and I don't want to get back to that place, but we're not going there. But I was trying to get back to God. And through getting back to God, for some reason, it's almost like in America, Christianity is a little political. For some reason, through getting back to God and looking at things on the internet, videos on YouTube and stuff, street preachers, somehow I found JLP. That's probably the link that made it. It went from like looking into stuff about God and theology and philosophy, and then debates, and then that leads to politics. And the side in politics that I went with was informed from my theology, from my worldview. So that's just an anecdote about me, but I think that that's the way it is, and it ought to be. That our political ideology, and this is the thing that, here, let me finish reading you his definitions. So Christianity is a formal religion, which implies political right there in your definition of Christianity. Now here's where he's gonna. I don't have to just agree to his definitions. I'm gonna pick apart this definition. Political or politicizing, formal. The definition of that are formal ideologies usually partisan, that pertain to the organization, structure, and administration of government for domestic, foreign, and economic purposes. So churches govern. If you, this is a very shallow definition of political if you don't consider political philosophy. And he has ideology in his definition, formal ideology. So what? Just because it's a formal ideology, like you could have politics that don't have a governing structure. And this is what I will argue is that, you know, he believes this because he's coming from a Christian anarchist perspective. And anarchy would say that anarchy is not political. It's apolitical. It's anti-political. And they would say there's no political system or political government in anarchy because the idea of an anarchy is there's no political government or political system. Okay, that's fine. Even if I grant that, anarchy does not have a political system. Anarchy is not is not a political government, which is his definition. So that's why he would say anarchy is not political. It leaves out, that definition leaves out political philosophy. He has ideology in his definition, but he says but his definition is formal ideology. And I'm saying his definition. I don't know if this is Oxford or Merriam-Webster or where he got this from, this definition from. Maybe we'll find out here in a little bit. But because in the past I've looked up political and it was more simple. It was the study of ideas to organize societies and structures. That's what I would say political is. Organize groups of people, society, and structures. This is why I say the only way anarchy works is if there's only one person. Because as soon as you have a family, as soon as you have any sort of hierarchy involved, or any sort of leadership, I mean, we're talking no borders, we're talking no currency, we're talking no nothing. You can't, as soon as there's any sort of structural organization going on there, now you have a society. It's political. There is a government. There are people, even if the people are self-governing, they're governing themselves, there's still a government. It's just going to come down to subjective morality and subjective standards of what's right and what's wrong and what we're going to enforce and what we're not going to, or we're not allowed to enforce anything. I guess we just can't enforce anything. So to say anarchy is not political, I think that's a cope. That's a cop out. That's like it is political. It's on every political compass. You're going to see anarchy on there. It is a political philosophy. It may not be political government or a political system, but it's a political philosophy. So it's political. And theology and philosophy, worldviews, will go hand in hand. So your politics, culture is downstream of politics. Politics is downline of theology. And if you don't want to call it theology because you don't like the idea of God, or you're an atheist or something, you can just call it your ideologies or your worldview. Those ideologies, when they relate towards how we organize people and how we organize groups, those are politics. So if your ideal world, and I got this in my notes, ideal world, what's he gonna say if I ask him, what's your ideal world? And then whatever he says, the only way for that to come to, like, that's politics right there. Just you thinking about an ideal world. So you'd have to say, oh, I don't believe in an ideal world. Yeah, I know. That's why it's a hypothetical. Like, I'm trying to like analyze where this is gonna go, because I've talked to Moseman a lot. But I'm gonna start playing this video. So we're gonna watch is because I feel like it's gonna be a similar debate, and me and John have actually had this debate informal. One of the first times he ever came on my stream. I might have been kind of drunk. 2 times in the early days when he first started coming on my stream, we got in big arguments. And I thought he would never come back, but he did. But twice, like the first 2 times I talked to Moseman, we got in big arguments. I remember what they're all about too. There was like 4 different things we disagreed on, and but one of them was Christian anarchy. And anarchy, I don't identify as a Christian nationalist. Not even like super national. I love America because it's my home and I want to make it as good as we can make it. But also, like if America got taken over by China and I hated it, I wouldn't be rocking China flags, but I would. What am I trying to say? I'm not super nationalist, is what I'm saying. I love America. I want America to succeed, but that's my Constitution is not the Constitution. My Constitution is God and the Scriptures. So I care more about that. I don't identify as a Christian nationalist. Just the fact that he identifies as a Christian anarchist, he has the anarchy sign on his YouTube thing. You're making Christianity political, and his argument's going to be, well, Christian or anarchy is apolitical. It's the opposite of political. But I bet you he would tell an atheist that they actually have a belief, just like I would tell an anarchist that they actually do have politics. You are involved in, you talk about, sorry guys, I'm imagining like I'm talking to John what I'm going to say to him. He does. He talks about politics. He has beliefs about, and none of this is bad. I'm just saying it's not coherent that you do have political beliefs. So and your Christian anarchy, your Christianity informs your political beliefs, and that's the way it ought to be. And I think that's inevitable. I think everyone's political beliefs are informed by their God, or you know what I mean? I mean like whatever they make God, that's what informs their politics. So the liberals, I don't know what they make their God, like freaking climate. I don't know. Diversity. I don't know what the lefties make their God, but that's going to inform your worldview. Anyway, so we're going to watch this debate. What I was going to say is one of the first times he came on my channel, we talked about Christian anarchism and kind of like Christian nationalism, and it got real heated. And it's crazy. This debate came up like 2 weeks later, and I watched it, and I was like, dude, did Andrew watch me and John arguing to study for this debate or something? Because he says a lot of the same exact things I said to John. He brings up the boat story. He doesn't tell it so great. I think I told it better, but about the lady who keeps praying for the boat, and then the helicopter, and then I brought that same line up. So we're gonna have to avoid that in the debate. I'm not bringing up the boat story, the flood story. If you know, you know. You'll hear it in a second. So let's watch this. I might get some Wukong going.
Of explaining it that hopefully y'all understand it the way I did. Anyways, let's get this going.
I might go
Bring the. Oh shit! What did I do? Okay, sorry. Let's bring up the debaters of the night. Welcome, welcome. Make sure we hear you both.
Yeah.
So we have our Rex minute. Then we.
By the way, this is like the best debate intro that I've ever heard before. I kind of want to skip through some stuff and get through this quickly. But and Andrew's thing is like more funny than informative, but I guess I gotta let it play because it's pretty epic.
We will get this started as soon as you want to.
This is Christian nationalism versus Christian anarchy. So this is not the same topic that we're doing, but it will go down some of the same paths, and it's very similar. This is more just to study how John debates. I've debated him before, so I know how he debates, but some of the arguments he makes to these are some of the same questions that I'm going to be asking, and it kind of goes it's kind of a similar debate.
Start talking. I got the timer here for you, John.
Okay.
As soon as you start talking, we will get this started. I want to say before we get this started, thank you both. I'm gonna be here to moderate if it gets too out of hand. But other than that, after the both 6 minute intros, we're gonna let it go for an hour open discussion. At the end, we'll read super chat questions or comments, and then we'll open it up for anyone that wants to call in and give a question or a pushback.
Absolutely. Cool. I just want to real quick thank you, Speakeasy, for putting this together, and I want to thank Andrew for coming off Mount Olympus and deeming to.
I think I'm gonna play it in
entertain us mere
1.5.
mortals, and I appreciate the opportunity, my friend. And as a brother in Christ, I thank you for all the work you do. And with that, let the blood go.
Quit glazing.
So let me start off by a quote by a Nikolai Berdov, who said,
Nikolai Berdov.
"The overwhelming majority of people, including Christians, are materialists. They do not believe in the power of the spirit. They believe only in the material. It is on this principle that I look at Christian anarchism. Like a lot of people, I thought that Christian anarchism was an oxymoron. I thought they were two contradictive terminologies. But as I started to kind of read some of the more popular purveyors of this system of thought, I realized something, that there's an acknowledgement here that this starts not just with a couple of guys."
Nikolai Berdov. According to Sonshev, Berdov's philosophical thought rests on 4 pillars: freedom, creativity, person, and communion. One of the central themes of Berdov's work was philosophy of love. Intellectual career entered his biography, social activities, philosophical work. According to Marko Markovic, Berdov was an ardent man, rebellious to all authority, an independent and negative spirit. He could assert himself only in negation and could not hear any assertion without immediately negating it, to such an extent that he would even be able to contradict himself and to attack people who shared their own. This seems like a guy you want to quote. Opinions. According to Marinera Makienko, Anna Panamorovia, and Andriy Gerban, Berdov's work are emotional, controversial, bombastic, effective, and dogmatic. They surmise that according to Berdov, man unites 2 worlds, the world of the divine and the natural world. Through the freedom and creativity, the 2 natures must unite. To overcome the dualism of existence is possible only through creativity. Wow. Sounds lovely.
From a couple hundred years ago. This starts even back with the words of Jesus himself, when he is talking to the people of the times, and he's talking especially to the Pharisees and the Sadducees of the times, who are trying to trap him in his words. They were trying to go after him. Christian anarchism is not about being anti-order, anti-authoritarian. While there may be some that are in anarchy that may promote such things, they do not represent what anarchism is at its core, which is about volunteerism, and it's also about cooperation. It's the idea that if we want to make any kinds of changes, we have to start from the bottom up. We have to start with ourselves. Long before someone like Andrew Peterson said, "Clean your room," we have people who are explaining and acknowledging things like this concept of Tolstoy, who says that everyone thinks about changing the world, but they never think about changing themselves. So first and foremost, we can look at the scriptures and we can see where God is instructing us to seek out this kind of renewal of our mind, to trust in his ways, to trust in his ultimate authority. I believe in the authority of Jesus Christ. He is my king. I believe the authority of God in his word, and I believe that that authority is best preserved by acknowledging that he warns us about mixing little o orthodox truth with things that would be temptations of man in the world. The interesting thing is, you would think that maybe Christian anarchism is something that comes from Americans or from some weird off corner of the world. The reality is, some of the most prominent Christian anarchists come from the Catholic Church, come from the Eastern Orthodox Church, come from these places where they saw the church, and they saw things where the church was lost its focus, where it had started to try to artificially go about trying to change the culture by making people do things, or trying to use the force of law, or try to use the shame. I would agree. Andrew has said many oftentimes that we should never think about things as a if or can or anything. It's an ought debate, and I agree with him that also that force does matter.
If Christianity should not be political, how would you make any ought claims? Like, if we're saying other people ought act a certain way, and we we have to enforce this some way, which he just agreed to some sort of enforcement. That's political. That's politics. Justice, mercy, law, order, whatever ought be done, morality, justice, that's politics. If you're saying people ought act a certain way, and if it's too crazy, we're gonna have to enforce it, because he would not, like, how far do you take this? Where we don't have prisons, we don't have jails, we don't have taxes, we don't have roads being built by the government. The people build the roads, which I'm not saying can't work, but that's gonna have to be done on their own dime. If nobody wants to pitch in, they don't have to. No, crimes, currency, money, spending, trading and selling, commerce, all of this, property, all of this, eventually you're going to need to govern politically. And we ought do that based off of a Christian worldview. Our Christian worldview should inform how we're going to build these societies and these civilizations. And we do. And in all the nations where Christians have done that, it's the nations where everybody want to live. And then this anarchist idea is that, like no offense to John, but it's so juvenile. It's like, come on, man, that was cool in middle school when I was skateboarding. I still skateboard, you know? But I ain't wearing Jinkos, and I do have a Spitfire shirt that I wear. I still do wear skateboarding clothes, and I still do skateboard a little bit. But come on, I'm not running around saying anarchy. We grew out of that, at least, you know?
But force also does have negative ramifications of that. And as a result, we as Christians have to be careful about how much force we advocate, because our master, our king, Jesus.
You can't advocate any force as a Christian, apparently, from what he's saying. If Christianity should not be political, no force. You can't even make a moral ought claim of somebody, of your neighbor. You can't say, hey, you ought not take a shit in my front yard, neighbor. Can you stop doing that, please? You as soon as you have that authority to tell them not to take a shit in your yard, what do you mean your yard? And what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Like a good little Christian. No. No. That is not how this works.
Jesus Christ himself says, blessed are the peacemakers. I would argue that majority of where Christian anarchism starts is in actually the Beatitudes.
Peacemakers. Peacemakers. Notice it's not peacekeepers. It's not the peacekeepers. It's not just people who just go around keeping everything peace. It's the peacemakers. I'm going to write that down. Blessed are the peacemakers. And that's from his favorite, which is the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew. We're going to have to brush up on our Matthew knowledge, because he knows I'm bringing Romans 13. He knows I'm going to bring some Old Testament stuff about Leviticus and Judges and 4 books of Kings and David. He knows I'm going to bring up some Old Testament stuff, but he knows I'm coming with some New Testament stuff too. There's going to be some Romans 13. And I'm going to use some Matthew. I got Matthew too. I got verses that I think he's going to bring up because he thinks that they justify his position. It's going to become an exegesis battle, because both of us, he's Lutheran, which is, I believe they have like some understanding of apostolic succession, and I'm not sure, but I think he leans more sola scriptura. And I'm not saying that both of us are Bible thumpers. He has a Bible stream. I have a Bible study stream. We both do Bible studies. We're both Bible thumpers. So I'm going to come with, and it's going to be an exegesis battle. And I like a good old Bible thump off, you know? That's my favorite, really. So we got to come brushed up on Matthew.
Where Jesus tells us to be
Oh, wait, what was I writing down? Oh, blessed are the peacemakers. I didn't even finish my point. We make peace. You got to make it happen sometimes. Sometimes you got to flip some tables. Yup. Now he'd say, well, that seems like something an anarchist would do. No, an anarchist would hide in the woods and not get involved because they don't want to use force. They don't want to do anything. So what? You'll go flip some tables, but you won't vote? Don't tell me you're going to flip tables if you can't even vote. You ain't going to flip nothing. Ain't going to bust a grape. That's like, I don't know. Christian anarchy to me just sounds soft. It just sounds soft. I know that's not an argument. I'm not going to make that argument. But for real, it just sounds soft.
Meek, where he tells us to seek after righteousness and to go after him and seek after his ways first before we go about trying to do anything else. It is an easy temptation for us to see all of the degens, and I have no problem acknowledging what Andrew has said, a lot of people have said, that we have degens. Our society is degens. People who advocate for things, and I don't like the libertarian viewpoint, by the way, that says that, well, you know what, if it does no harm to me, then there is no harm. Obviously, there is harm.
I think that, does he mean Unitarian? Anarchy are more libertarian than libertarians. What do you mean? What is that even? I'm not into the libertarian view. Anarchists are just farther south than libertarians. They're just more libertarian than the libertarians. What does that even mean? That's like a commie saying I'm not a socialist. I'm a commie. It don't make no damn sense.
Anybody that doesn't believe in these types of harms are lying to themselves. The question is,
you too easy.
Can we actually truly make effective change, and can we actually win these souls to Christ if we're doing it merely on the auspice of shaming them, of using the law against them? Is this something that is going to cause this? I would say you could look at examples like in Europe, especially during the Spanish Inquisition, where the Roman Catholic Church was trying to convert Jews to Christianity, and a lot of them, it backfired on them. I think it's the first way we do is we go in our vocations. We do it in our families. We do it in our churches. We do it in our local communities. I very much like the idea of subsidiarism in this way because...
Are we doing politics on VK tonight? Oh, I know somebody who's excited about politics. Everybody knows where I stand on politics, so I might have to let somebody else take over for me tonight.
Because I believe we start small and we build up. And I do think that it's easy to think that if we could just establish this perfect utopia of laws and nation states and culture, that we would somehow create Christianity and create and stop degeneracy. The reality is, though, that sin is existing, and the answer to it is not by using the threat of law or by trying to shame them, but to show them the love of Christ, to appeal to them by the word of God and by our vocations and all the things that God has advocated for.
Before we get too deep into this, I need to finish reading this. Okay. So, okay, this is his definitions. Christianity is a formal religion based on the teachings of Jesus Christ. Okay, so I wrote formal religion. This is political. A formal religion involves politics. Otherwise, it's not formal. And just the fact that you're saying religion means it's organized and it's structured, and you're saying it's formal. So your definition right there, Christianity is political in that definition. And then the politicization. Politicization, the definition he has here is formal ideologies. So both of them are formal and formal. So there's no such thing as informal politics and informal religion. If it's informal religion, it wouldn't be Christianity, I guess. And if it's informal politics, it's not politics. So political philosophy pertains to the organizing, structuring, and administration of what? Of government for domestic, foreign, and economic purposes. What about, I would say, ideologies? I would take out the formal. I would say ideologies that pertain to the organization, structuring, and administration of government or people's, societies, groups. Because you could, it's still political, even if it's just a family, even if it's just a town of 5 people. You're still doing politics. You still have a hierarchies, leadership roles. You're going to figure out economics and all these other things that are political. Whenever you're dealing with a group of people, you even talk colloquially. We'll say politicking. We were just politicking. What does that mean? Well, we were talking about how we're going to figure out how to put this together. Politicking. He's just using a very narrow definition. There's a broader definition. He's leaving out political philosophy. So I wrote shallow definition. It's a surface level definition that doesn't look deeper into what politics actually are. Politics is not government. Government's government. Politics are the ideas we do to make governments. And those are informed by our theology. Okay, so he wrote, we as Christians ought to follow the teachings of Jesus and the Bible. Okay, I agree. By this, I mean, we ought to actually base our faith and our role in this world by the words of Jesus. I agree. Along with a contextual reading of the Bible. I agree. If our ideas, beliefs, or values conflict or contrast with this, then we must seek in love to correct each other. Well, who decides? And how are you going to correct somebody? With love to correct them. So you're going to decide what's right and what's wrong about somebody else's understanding of the Bible. You're going to correct them. To some extent, that's a bit of force. Why are you correcting me? And who are you to correct me? You're an anarchist. What? Okay. With this, then we must seek in love to correct each other and speak truth according to the word. See, I agree with that, but I don't see, as an anarchist, say you have a family and then your family starts to grow and then you have a small town, you have a neighborhood, you have your neighbors, you're going to treat them with love. You hope that they're your Christian brothers and you want to treat them with love. But if they're doing something wrong, you're going to correct them with love. What if they're just like slaughtering cats in their backyard every night? Gently correct them with love. And then you tell them, hey, you need to stop. And they say, but I don't want to stop. I like it. What are you going to do? You're going to pray about it? You're going to pray that God strikes him with lightning? All right, Moses. You better calm down. That ain't going to work, buddy. What's up, Arukar Oak? You hear about Texas implementing age verification for prawn? Oh, for corn? Porn? This show ain't on Twitch and it ain't for children. I'm going to say porn. You hear about the Texas implementing age verification for porn? Yeah, they did that a long time ago. Utah did it like 2 years ago. I did a stream like 2 years ago where I went on Pornhub and PornTube on my stream. Opened it on desktop for everybody live. You know why I did that? Because you can't get on it from Utah. when you open it, there's just a lady sitting there and she does a video and she's like, states like Utah and Texas have implemented age verification. So now, to risk lawsuits, we're not going to show you anything when you click on this website until you give us your face and your fingerprint and your damn social security number and your DNA and your left testicle and your firstborn child. Yeah, we haven't. We've had that implemented for I think 2 years. All right, back to this. What was I writing? Did I write what I wanted to write? I don't know.
for us. I would say that overall Christian anarchism is the idea that we come together in meekness. We come together not with the
Oh, I was reading the thing. I keep forgetting what I'm doing. Okay. We were talking about correcting with love. Okay. Where was I? Correct each other and speak. Then we must seek to love to correct each other and speak truth according to the word. Therefore, anyone who should call themselves a Christian or worship the true Jesus, they must seek first his word, facts, then comport our thinking to it. I agree. For the sake of our faith and the highest mission given, which is to preach the gospel, we must not create policies. Whoa, now there's where you're losing me. Why not? Why should we not create policies? Even if we just, like, I don't know, some basic policies like, I don't know, don't murder anybody, don't steal stuff, don't sleep with your neighbor's wife. I don't know. Don't lie to each other as much as you can, especially not in important situations like in a trial. I don't know. Don't worship other gods. Even metaphysical laws, like a law like that, we should. Now he's saying we shouldn't impose those, and then we get into a discussion about freedom of religion and if we should, persecute people, because there are some of the 10 commandments are more metaphysical, like don't put any other gods before me, don't worship idols. Secular people won't get those, but some basic ones like don't kill people, don't murder a guy. We can't have he murdered a guy. Anyway, we can't murder a guy. We can't have a law against murdering a guy. A policy. So he thinks politics is just making policies. Or that's what he's arguing, is that it's governments and political systems. And Alabama has it too. I think they just removed the website and the lady just cries about it. Okay. He wrote me a book. We must not create policies, philosophies, or practices that would create us to bear false witness or endanger others on the road to Jesus. Okay, but why can't we create policies and philosophies or discover policies, philosophies, and practices that work well and use them to the honor of God, use them for the glory of God, use them to better humanity for the glory of God. Let our light shine. That's going to be a key focus. I'm going to talk about letting your light shine, and we'll get a couple little verses. You don't put your light under a bushel, you let it shine. And if that means doing something simple like, I don't know, going down and voting, going down to sitting on the internet and talking about politics like John does sometimes, then that's what you should do. It ain't that tough. And if these things, if these philosophies and these practices do not cause us to bear false witness or endanger others on the road to Jesus, what if doing this actually helps us empower others on the road to Jesus? Instead of, he said, we should not create policies or philosophies or practices that would cause us to bear false witness or endanger others on the road to Jesus. I agree with that. But the converse of that is we should create policies and practices and philosophies that help people in mass on their path to Jesus, like Christians have done through all of history. We're supposed to trumpet it from the rooftops. So when you live in a nation where, they're starting to ban street preachers, let's say some imaginary nation, they start, I don't know, trying to kill Christians. What do? You either hide, you fight back, or you run. But all three of those require some sort of action. And How about we just don't let it get to that point, like we've done in certain parts of the world for all of history? We've managed to win in certain areas, not globally, and I don't think we ever will win globally, nor should we. Um, but Christians, we always got an army ready. We're always ready to go. Jesus said, "Sell your garment and buy a sword, because they're gonna come for you." So there's a time to fight back. There's a time for everything. There's a time to fight back. There's a time to run for office if you have oratory skills and you understand policy and you understand legislation, et cetera, et cetera. You're camera ready or media ready or something. Maybe God has given you this so that you can make some changes in the area. And that's one thing we're gonna have to get to too, is the powers and the principalities, the God assigned, and we'll go to Daniel 2:20. I got that already written down, and there's a bunch of other ones, some of Jeremiah and the New Testament, to show how God assigns the authorities. All the authorities are through God and through the powers and the principalities, which are angels. They're part of the celestial kingdom. We get the rulers we deserve. And the way you get Kim Jong-un ruling your country is by this bull crap right here. I'm not going to get involved. Christians shouldn't get involved.
The threat of force of government, not with the threat of force of violence, not with the threat of anything, but to actually appeal to people in love to do the right thing. That's not always easy. It's not going to be pragmatic. I myself would not argue that anarchism in a purely pure sense should be in its own self a effective mechanism for ideology or government. I think it is merely a great way to ask questions to ensure that we have not just a good state.
I feel like I feel like this is a cop out. Like it's not even real. Then you don't even believe in it. Like, what are we living in? Fucking Lord of the Rings, John? What is this? This is the real world.
But that we are also remembering to do all things in the proper way in which Christ has constructed us to do and instructed us to do.
All right. With a second to spare. All right. So we'll turn it over to Andrew now. Thank you, John. And whenever you start, Andrew, I'll start up the timer here.
Yeah, so very quickly.
What up, King?
John,
I saw you guys
I'm
were in
a
the
little bit confused
Discord
by the opening, but I'm sure we'll get into it. Now, you seem like the type of guy who likes to have a little bit of fun. I saw your "Where's the Beef" on your channel. You tagged me, and I thought it was pretty funny. So I was going to have a little fun with my opening statement against Christian anarchy, if you don't mind, if that would be okay.
This is so good.
Right. So this is what I call the Ventura argument, the Jesse Ventura.
I have it in
argument
1.25, so it's going to sound a little weird, but
if you don't mind.
It should be fine.
The year was 1987 when I was recruited by a CIA operative codenamed George to go down to Guatemala and rescue a group of political prisoners from the Guatemalan Republican Army. An easy mission, so we thought, as we butchered an encampment of enemy soldiers. Now, I say we, but it was mainly just me and my futuristic-looking 1980s jetpack minigun, which fired 87,000 rounds per minute. It was after this epic battle in this jungle that we were attacked by a vagina-mouthed alien monster, later identified as a Yautja from the planet Yautja Prime, where they engage in endless battle with a xenomorph threat. But that's neither here nor there. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So this invisible space alien blasted a bowling ball-sized hole in the chest of yours truly with a shoulder laser beam cannon. And it's at that moment I knew I had to become the governor of Minnesota. But that's neither here nor there. Our fearless Commander Dutch, the head of our Special Operations Command mercenary group, beat this invisible bastard to death with his bare hands, or at least that's the official story.
Bro, I thought your chat said happy to come. Speakeasy, happy to come. What? I was like, what? Who is this weirdo? Now I say to see you, mate. Oh, okay. Okay.
The truth is, even with a hole in my chest, which would dwarf the size of Clinton's vagina, I was still able to take out this clawed death machine with 88,000 rounds of pure American democracy. Dutch never spoke of it, but later he became
La Brie. Be around later for VK.
The governor of California. I think it's safe to say we know a thing or five about illegal aliens. Now back to the topic at hand, which is Christian anarchism. Without a government, we can't put up the space wall and keep these bastards who hunt us for sport out of this fine nation.
That's right.
I told this to Trump and let him know as the first person through the Egyptian Stargate portal who nuked Ra himself that we needed a damn space force to keep these Yautja bastards at bay. Yet here I now have an opponent fixated on an anti-government platform when invisible laser beam wielding psychopathic aliens are attacking our citizens with wild abandon. I've had enough of these so-called anarchists who never spent any time at all reading the Ripley report on what Hillary Clinton would later refer to as the super predators, which is a mix of xenomorphic alien hybrid and Yautja DNA together, creating a massive killing death machine. But that's neither here nor there. The problem is with the elites of the nation doing everything in their power to harvest xenomorph DNA, creating effective brain drain galaxy-wide for the xeno population, and these so-called predators who keep coming and harassing our black people who are strapped to the hilt so they can just sell enough drugs to feed their own families. The entire government, except the parts I work in, is totally corrupt and needs to be removed, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you.
All right.
That's one way to do an opening.
It's got to be the best. Ah, shit. All right. With over
neither here or there.
almost half the time to spare. All right. Now we will open up the discussion for an hour here.
Oh.
And yeah, whoever wants to start, you're more than welcome. And
Well, what can be
You know,
said
I
after
feel
that,
like
man?
I feel like it's just an instant W. I mean, but yeah, it's just an instant W. Okay, all right. So back to the debate.
Yeah.
I still don't understand what the fuck Christian anarchism is, and
Okay.
maybe you can help me out here.
Right.
So what is it?
So, most importantly, if you look at anarchism in the definition, talking about voluntarism and cooperation, it's the idea that, first of all, Christian anarchists don't oppose government. They oppose that the government almost always has to use force, because anything in this world that requires you to be able to maintain things, as you've said many times, like rights.
Hold on a second. Christian anarchists don't oppose government. Well, anarchy implies a government, anti-government. It's not even, they don't even consider it a political system because there's no politics. It's absent politics, absent government. So I don't know. Christianity doesn't oppose government. They just don't, they don't want to take part in it. They just want to, I don't know. They just want to go along to get along in a society that politics and governments and taxpayers and other things pay for to make it a nice place to live in. I'm sure he wouldn't be singing this tune if he was in damn Somalia. You'd want to get pretty active in politics, even if it meant running. Just the act of running away from a place like that, that's a political decision. you know that they enforce things differently there. And you either run, hide, or fight. Any civilization or society where the people stand up and fight, or they run away, or they hide from the people who are in leadership roles, they're being political. Their Christianity is going to inform that. It's going to tell them, is this the time to fight? Is this the time to run away? Is this the time you're going to make political decisions? What am I looking for? Tolstoy. Oh, shoot. I hope it goes back to the same timestamp. Oh, no, we're good. We're good. Hold up. Bookmarks, mobile bookmarks, Tolstoy, Christian anarchy. Leo Tolstoy's Christian anarchism, as articulated in his writings like The Kingdom of God is Within You, is a philosophy that blends Christian principles with anarchist ideals, particularly pacifism. Christianity is not just about pacifism. Yes, there's times to turn the other cheek, but there's also times to wield the sword of justice. And we'll get into the Bible at the end. I went over some of the verses the other day, but we got to get more. So I have some other stuff we're going to play too. So I want to get through this, but I want to read a little bit about Tolstoy real quick. He believed that true Christianity, and this is always the claim, true Christianity. This is true Christianity. We don't believe in government, and we believe be nice. That's true Christianity. He believed that true Christianity, as presented in the Sermon on the Mount, like I mentioned earlier, as John likes the Beatitudes and the Sermons on the Mount. Matthew's his favorite book. So we're going to look into Matthew, and I got some things from Matthew that I want to point out. Inherently opposes the state and all forms of violence, including war. I heard an atheist say this. He was arguing against a Christian anarchist in something I was watching last night. It was an atheist call-in show, and a Christian anarchist called in, and they were challenging him on his Christian anarchist belief. The dude was a communist. He was an ANCOM. And what'd he say? He said, the atheist said, Jesus had to die for our sins, and he's God. He could have just like lifted himself up in the air in front of the people and like had just died there in front of everybody. And that would have been a miraculous sign. And then he would have fell to the ground, and then he could have resurrected. He could have just done it that way. And it still would have been dying for our sins. He could have went up there and just suffered in front of everybody on an invisible cross, which would have been even more miraculous, as if it's not miraculous enough that he died and rose again and he went through horrible torture. But why did he go through the horrible torture at the hands of the Romans? It was to show that governments could be bad, but you render to the authority. Jesus didn't try to escape. He said, I could bring down a legion of angels right now and stop this. But not his will, his Father's will be done. So he went through it. Those authorities were put into power to crucify him because that had to happen. That was the way it went, and he submit to that. He submit to his Father's authority. He submit to the Romans' authority when they crucified him. He could have said, I don't want to be crucified by the Romans. I don't like government. I'm going to be crucified in the middle of a field in an imaginary, but why? He didn't do that. Every time Jesus calls out, and we'll go to the Matthew. Maybe we should just do it now. No, we need to get through this debate. But we'll go to Matthew, and I'll show you there's one part where he's calling out the Pharisees. And if you read half of the verse or half of the passage, you'll think, oh, Jesus is anti anything political. But if you keep reading, you see that the important thing is not taxes. It's not taxes. It's not things like that. Small things like economics and all those things. Being in power is not just about taking from the people and having slaves and making a lot of money and getting rich. It's about justice. Being in a leadership role, being in an authority role is about justice and mercy. And they get so focused on the little things like wars and economics and differences in political opinions that they don't focus on the big thing, which is justice and mercy. Justice implies a political system, a government, a way of governing people. We say government and people automatically think of like people. They don't think of the principle, the idea of governorship, governing people, policies, the philosophy. But John's going to argue against the philosophy. I don't know how you do it.
Or property or anything like that requires force. So the question of the anarchist is, well, is that something that we should be concerned with? Can we do cooperation? Well,
check your
here's the thing
PayPal.
We know.
Oh, do we get a PayPal? Dude, you sent me on a different thing every time. Or no, you sent it on PayPal last time. Log into PayPal. Why don't you just stay logged in? It's going to take a second. Going to have to define anarchism from the start. Well, no, our debate's not about Christian anarchy. Our debate, that's what he's debating with Andrew. Our debate is Christian politics, or wait, Christianity should not be political.
Hang on, back up.
And I'm going to argue that, see, he's against the politicization of Christianity, which I think is impossible. He says it's bad. I would argue it's neither good nor bad because it's not possible. Politics can't influence Christianity because of a verse that he might bring up, which is when Jesus says his kingdom is not of this world. We should be in this world, but not of this world, because his kingdom is not of this world. Politics cannot, no political system can affect Christianity. Christianity, we don't politicize Christianity. We Christianize politics, because Jesus' kingdom is not of this world, and we are the light and the salt of this world. And we're told to be in the world, but not of the world. He may bring that verse up. If he does, I'm going to pin him down on, you're focusing on of the world. You're missing the first half, which is we are to be in the world, but not of the world. Well, what do we do while we're in the world? Okay, I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. I'm of Christ, but I'm in this world. What should I do as a Christian while I'm in this world? Well, you should be the light of the earth. You should trumpet it from the mountaintops. You should spread to all nations and spread the gospel. You should be the salt of the earth. You should flavor the earth with a good flavoring. You should preserve the earth. You should be stewards of the land. That doesn't mean pick up litter. That doesn't just mean pick up litter. That means affect your surroundings. And we are lucky enough to live in a nation where we can affect our surroundings. We have a way to do that. A lot of nations don't have that. And I bet they wish they could. And that's why they want to come to America. Because even if you could argue we're not a Christian nation, but we're a pretty Christian nation, you know? Even if some of the founding fathers were deists and Benjamin Franklin was a Rosicrucian, blah, blah, blah. It's a pretty Christian nation, you know what I'm saying? Our foundations are pretty Christian. You could say Judeo-Christian. A lot of our laws and stuff come straight out of Leviticus. So, seems like God did have an idea of a hierarchy on the earth, and his chosen people, whether that be Christians or whatever you think it is, the people who follow the one true God, and Jesus is their savior, and they follow Christ. A Christian follows Christ. You know, what would Jesus do? Now, the argument against that would be, well, Jesus didn't get involved in politics. He didn't run for politics. Okay. Well, Jesus also didn't get married or have any kids, but we're told that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. We're told to be fruitful and multiply. So it's understood that not everybody's the same. Different people have different gifts. Some of them were tax collectors. Some of them, I always forget which disciples did what, but they were studying law. One of them was a lawyer. One of them was a tax collector. I think Matthew and Paul were both tax collectors. They, different people have different skills and different abilities. So maybe it's not, John's place to run for governor or something, but that doesn't mean that Christians can't get involved in other ways to affect the politics of their society for the better, so we don't end up like fucking North Korea.
Back up. Right now, I just want kind of a simple definition that I can operate off of.
Okay. So what I would say is that in its root cause, Christian anarchism, as argued by people such as Amon Hennessy and by Jacques Ellul, it's a philosophy and a critique and an ethical understanding of how we talk about government, how we talk about the fact that government, when we try to impose.
And see, he sent me some books, so I'll have to use that list because I can't write down these names because I don't know how to say these French ass names. Yvonne, that's a French ass name. Yvonne, can I get your number?
Or import Christian values, quote unquote, into a government system, that we lose Christianity as a process of that. We all.
Sorry, I was logging into PayPal. I gotta read the thing from Gorilla Biscuit. It's still logging in. It's taking forever. I will play the sound effect anyway. I've been broke my whole life. Now money right. For some reason that's quiet when I watch the. Dude, it's not logging into PayPal. Let me close it and reopen it. Let's try that. There we go. Hey, thank you, Gorilla Biscuit. Shout out. I appreciate it. Did you send a note or anything? I don't even know how to look at that in PayPal, so. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I see how he argues it. But anyway, I was responding to you saying I'm going to need to get a definition of anarchism. I don't. I can actually concede at the very beginning of the debate that Christian anarchy is the best political philosophy, which means Christianity is political, which means you just made Christianity. I agree. We should have Christian anarchy all over the country. I agree. That's my political philosophy from a Christian perspective. Seems like we've made Christianity political.
Also, go away from the words of Jesus himself about understanding force. There's an aspect of it that is a pacifistic. I don't myself say that it's that one would argue that it should be completely that way, because I think when someone personally threatens you, you have the right to defend yourself. They've sacrificed that when they go on your property.
This is not actually helping me. I don't have any better understanding of what Christian anarchism is actually saying it wants than I did when you started with the.
So the best way, one of the best ways.
We're more watching this just so we can really understand. And I've watched this already, but I just really want to know where he's coming from, so I know. It's not the same debate, but it's kind of similar.
I could argue is this. So the idea is that government cannot can instruct moral order. Government can't. It's impossible for it to do so.
We do it all the time.
The only reason why laws,
back up. Why is it impossible for the government to impose moral order?
Well, because one, the people who are capable of having moral order, especially from a Christian worldview, they have it because of the Word of God through their relationship with Christ, through the Holy Spirit, through the church.
This is a massive. Okay, so.
And we just read this. Oh man, I wish I wrote that verse down. I'm gonna have to try to find that verse. The verse that says, we don't have the law for the good. The good don't need the law. The law is for the evildoer. So what he just said, he was like close to it, but then he didn't finish it. Because I think he knew that he was kind of like walking into, he was about to trap himself. We have the law. He's right. Christians, the people who are able to do morally right, they don't even need the law. So his idea is just as utopian as a more authoritarian view, which is that we should have law and order and governments and borders and militaries and law enforcement and some taxes, a little bit of taxes. Sorry, guys, we got to have a little bit of taxes. If you're a law-libertarian, sorry about it. We got to pay a little bit of taxes. If you want to live in a nice society, pay your taxes. Render unto Caesar's what's Caesar's. Render unto God what's God's. He tries to slither out of that one. Sorry, I want to be nice to John. He's not a snake, but he's trying to slither out of that one.
So we can start with this first point of contention. So this, I think, is a massive oversimplification.
Okay.
So do you think that if stealing was legal, that otherwise moral people who were in perhaps a desperate situation would be more or less likely to steal?
People who are in immoral, if they were desperate to steal?
No. Listen to my question. Let us assume for a second that the government made stealing legal. And let us assume that you had people who had the moral foundation where they didn't want to steal. Mm-hmm. Do you think that if those same people were in some kind of dire situation, that they would be more likely or less likely to steal based on the fact that it was now legal?
I think that if they had morality that was outside of that government structure, if it was something based in something rooted like in a Christian faith, they would not do that regardless of what the rule of law was.
Hang on. Somehow I'm muted on my stream. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, okay, I think we're good now.
Yeah, you're good here.
Yeah, I think we're okay now. All right. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened there. So do you think they'd be less or more likely?
I can't answer that question in the way that you're framing it, because I don't think that you can make a wholesale assumption about people If they're prone to just doing whatever they can, or they have weaker morals, then
Okay, well
the
then,
government
why,
allowing
wait,
them
wait.
will allow
That's
that to
a
happen. Freely.
silly response. So then why have any laws at all?
Well, obviously, the reason why we have laws is because we're trying to enforce some type of order.
Oh, we're trying to enforce some type of what kind of order?
An order where we believe that it would benefit people in their interactions.
Like moral orders, like you're not allowed to kill people, you're not allowed to steal things, you're not
Well,
allowed
they
to take
come from
people's retirements.
they come from moral. There's a
Yeah, it
moral
sounds
aspect
like
in it.
you're imposing morality on people, and that is just fine. And so, if you say that we need to have laws so that we have some sort of social order, what you're agreeing to is that absent those laws, people are going to be more likely to do bad behavior.
I would say that the person who is prone to doing bad things is less likely, yes, with given laws. But I don't think that people
and people who ordinarily would not do those things can still be more likely to do a bad thing if it becomes legal to do the bad thing.
Again, if they have a truly objective standard of how they are arguing on, if they come from a value system that is outside of the state, then they're not going to adhere to the state on that. In fact, they will often.
So you don't think that men who are ordinarily great people can fall to temptation?
Oh, they can fall to temptation, but it's not because of whether there's an order that's imposed on that or not.
Yeah, I think it is.
I
think you're wrong. And let me give you an example.
Okay,
so let's start with an alcoholic.
Okay.
Do you think that an alcoholic would remove all the alcohol from his house?
I think that's a weak take, Catherine. I don't know. I think that's not a. I think that's a weak take.
Not if he doesn't want to. No.
I'm not asking if he doesn't want to. He's an alcoholic.
Clearly. Yeah.
But do you think that they usually remove the alcohol from their house if they're an alcoholic?
No.
It's because no. If they're a recovering alcoholic, if they want to not be an alcoholic anymore, would they get rid of the alcohol?
If they didn't want to be an alcoholic, yeah, they would sustain from it.
Yeah. So why would they remove the temptation from their home?
Because when you remove temptation, you are providing yourself with a better ability to abstain from it.
So a law, right, would operate in the same way as a deterrent, right? It would remove temptation from people who are already doing the right thing. So the recovering alcoholic's already doing the right thing, right? They're removing the alcohol from their home so they're not tempted by the alcohol. The same exact thing can happen of moral men who are following and obeying laws where absent those laws, that temptation would be present. Why does that not follow?
Because I think you're missing on one key element, and that key element is people who are not inclined to want to improve their life. If they're not inclined to want to do something, the government forcing them to do something will not guarantee it will happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I'm saying that it's either
that's the point.
I'm saying it's either a deterrent or an incentive. You can't guarantee anything. There is no system which you can provide which is a guarantor of anything. Period.
Correct.
So
Correct.
the thing is that
so the question is whether
we're getting into the question. So the first order of business here is whether or not laws offer a deterrent or if they offer incentives. And clearly you agree that they do.
I would argue that laws do offer a deterrent, yes.
If they offer a deterrent and they offer incentives, and what in the hell is wrong with having them?
What's wrong with having them is that there's nothing to prevent those laws, which are started off as a good intent, to be maligned or to be abused. Not only that, but the things that you are trying to change or the things you're trying to affect will not necessarily be affected in the more personal or spiritual aspect.
This is paradoxical. So then why have laws at all if your concern is that if we do have laws, they're just going to be abused? Then why not just get rid of the laws?
I'm not arguing that you should get rid of laws. I'm
saying that's the paradox.
Yeah.
The paradox here is, why is it that if you're not arguing we should get rid of laws, but at the same time you're saying that the government cannot enforce or impose morality via law, then we're in this big circle.
No,
it's really strange.
I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm saying the type of morality or the type of things which someone who is trying to import Christian values into, that those things that are synonymous with things like sin or the things that are happening, those things will be not necessarily there because of the fact that some of the issues that people are facing with the degens is not just a mere fact that they're criminals. It's that they're sinners. It's the fact that they are dealing with the fact that they may not know why they're in error. They may not know why they're a degen. And so the question comes, if we're going to really try to create a society that's better.
Okay, so you're conflating a couple things here.
Okay.
Whether or not they know why they're a degen has nothing to do with whether or not the government making an imposition, utilizing force for this imposition, works or doesn't work. It clearly works. Example, do you think that if we outlaw abortion, there's going to be less or more abortion?
Of course, when you ask these questions, of course, there would be less abortions.
Okay, do you think that if we outlaw X, anything, that there's going to be less or more of X?
There's usually less.
Yeah, there's usually less. So clearly you can utilize force to impose moral systems on people, and they clearly work if it has less of the behavior that is not desired. Right.
But we're not just talking about morals that we could all agree as humans, or things that we know we could all agree as a thing that is beneficial for society. We have to look at also when you're trying to put Christian values and Christian morals. There
Yeah,
are
why
aspects
wouldn't
of those things that
Christian
are,
morals be able to be imposed?
because there's aspects of Christian truth that has to do with why people are doing the things. We know that Christ tells us that the world will
You
hate
can
us.
still you can still attack those problems while simultaneously enforcing Christian morality. Why couldn't you? It's not a thing which you can only have one or the other. You can have both. You can both impose morality on the population, and you can attack whatever these rooted issues are, which are spiritual. And
well, let me ask you this.
I don't understand this.
Do you believe that back like in the 40s or 50s in America, when we were pushing, we had a more Christian culture and Christian morals were being more, from a legal perspective, pushed. Do you think that
Sorry, guys. I'm making my idea web here. Christianity is inherently political. So I would argue politics and theology cannot be divorced. Some ideas that branch off of that. Theology informs politics. Any ought claim for society, for how society should be organized, is political. And that's going to come from your theology. And then I have the idea of an ideal state would require Christianity to dominate politically and is a better option than no state, because he's arguing for no state. Anarchy, there's no state. It's against having a state, which means borders, military, leadership, and I'm going to have biblical references for when God tells Israel to build a wall. There's times when they build walls. They have borders separating their different tribes. Before that, back in Leviticus, they have borders. They're told where to put each camp around the tabernacle, property rights, borders. An ideal state would have these things, and we're going to get these from a Christian foundation, these ideas. Leadership, wise leadership like Solomon, strong judges like Samson. Leadership roles, we would ideally in an ideal state, which is better than no state, we have strong, wise, and loving leaders. We have borders. We have defenses, militaries, armies, property designations and property rights. And we can ground all of these things in a Christian scriptural worldview. And then, and laws, law and order. We can point to Leviticus and Deuteronomy for laws all day. And then the last argument will be just biblical teachings from the prophets and Jesus about governments and law. So it's really all these ideas, I'm going to say the Bible supports it. Politics and theology cannot be divorced, and the ideal state would be a state. Ideally, we would have a state, and it would be ran from a Christian worldview, with our leadership, with our laws, with all of that. And the whole thing, I'm going to point to Bible verses all throughout it, because I know my opponent, and we're both Bible thumpers, so we're going to get biblical with it. I'm going to make him get biblical with it. But I don't think he's going to have a problem with that. Debate with Moseman about Christianity should not be political. Not like Solomon, like David or Samuel or even Moses. Why? Solomon was a great king. He had a weakness to women, but so did David. Samuel wasn't a king. He was a prophet to the king. But he's still in a leadership role, so I agree. Moses the same. Moses wasn't a king or a priest. Was he a priest? No, he wasn't a priest. He wasn't even back in Moses's time. It was a theocracy, so that the priests, the Levites, and the priests were the ones in charge of all the laws and doling out punishments and things like that. Then they go to a time when there is no king and people do what is right in their own eyes, subjective morality, because there's no leadership. And that's when judges come in occasionally to handle things. Then they move to the monarchy. And that had a lot of flaws. You know, it depended on which king was in charge. The people tended to follow the king. So, and I'm not arguing that all government and all political systems and all kings are great guys. You know, I'm just arguing that since we're in the world, we should work to affect the world and to change the world, and leaders should lead being led by God. Anarchy is retarded. I agree. Yeah. Hey, Daddy Jub, fights are going to be crazy tomorrow. I'm not sure if Easy found somebody else or what's going to happen, but I'm going to try to go to bed earlier tonight after VK so I can get up by 4 p.m. because I think the early prelims start at like 4. Actually, they might start earlier than that. Till a group of nomadic raiders fucks your compound up. Yeah. Folks think they want it till they have it. Right, that's what I'm saying. If any Christian in freaking North Korea is not talking about no damn anarchy. Actually, they might, because a lot of the Christian anarchists, they were Russians, and they fled Russia, and they brought this damn anarchy to America. They fled the communism. I told you, run, hide, or fight. And the fact that they ran from communism to be anarchists in America, where they have the freedom to be anarchists, Christians, without being killed or put into a camp. So they fled that place to come to another place that would allow them, but we're not political. That's a political action. You didn't like the politics. You didn't like the way things were being ran in that area. And instead of just saying, well, I'm anti-state, so I'm just going to live in the woods somewhere. No, you ran to a place where you could bring that ideology. Seems political to me. Are you going to be hosting the debate on here? Yeah. We're doing it on Sarah. We're doing it on Sarah's channel, but I'll be streaming too. But what was I about to say? Oh, Saturday, the fights. I'm going to wake up early to watch the fights, but I don't know. I might go help out with Easy's debate. If they want me to, I don't know. And if I wake up in time. If I commit to it, I'll do it. I'll wake up in time. But at 8 o'clock, when the main card starts, I'll be on Discord, Daddy Jub. We got some fights tomorrow. I'm pretty hype. I think it's going to be good. You got Topuria or Oliveira? I don't think it's a ridiculous concept. I just think people ridiculously overestimate their ability to survive in a world absent of law. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's way more of a utopian idea than a monarchy or a theocracy or I don't know, a republic or even a democracy. I think all of these political ideas of how we should organize a society, these political philosophies of how we should organize groups of people, are all better than anarchy. And I think Christianity relates to all of them more than anarchy. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if anarchy fits into Christianity perfectly, I'm not going to concede that is a political. At the very least, that's a political philosophy. I'd say it's a political system, but they would say it's not. Google will tell you that anarchy is not a political system. It's the absence of a political system.
That dealt with things like teen pregnancy as much as it could have. Because in fact, we know that teen pregnancy was hidden and it went down, and we started seeing a rise of things like abortion clinics as a result of that, because there was a push for people to try to get that done. And instead of trying to go into the culture and go to people and speak to them in truth and love and say, this is why you shouldn't do it, because of the way in which we were doing a top-down system of trying to impose morality, it was causing people to then hide their degeneracy. You know,
This is probably one of the worst arguments. So I'm going to steel man your argument because now
Okay.
I at least understand what it is that you're saying. You think that right now evangelicals are that there's less of them or more of them in the United States? Less or more evangelicals?
Well, I actually would say there's less evangelicals, and there's more people who are identifying themselves as probably evangelical. But
Yeah, I
the
mean,
metric and purity of evangelicals.
in the age of the internet, there's more people evangelizing than have ever had access to be evangelists than ever before. The message is being spread wide and far, trying to attack those same rooted issues that you're talking about. Almost to no avail, by the way. This idea that if you just kind of get rid of the idea that Christians can also enforce or impose morality on society, and that somehow just only using the evangelize approach is superior, is baffling to me. That's totally baffling to me. How would that be superior?
Well, if you're looking at it from a pragmatic approach, that would be your likely conclusion of it. But I don't think you have to. I don't think you should be looking at it from a pragmatic approach, and that's why having
what
this
approach
critique
should
is
we be
important.
looking at it for?
By pragmatic, John means the approach that works. I don't understand this because we've had this discussion before too. I've argued that what's pragmatic is not always bad, which is not a crazy thing to say. What's pragmatic could be good, could be bad. Sometimes the most practical thing could be bad. The most practical thing to deal with overpopulation on Earth is to wipe out 70% of the population. It's practical. No, practical could be bad, but it's not necessarily bad. John has argued against me and said anything practical, he says pragmatic, which means practical. Just a more fancy way to say practical. Anything that makes sense is bad. Anything that's practical, it makes sense to do it this way. It's pretty pragmatic. If you want to lose weight and get stronger, to jog and go to the gym every day. It's pretty pragmatic. Is that bad? But from this Christian anarchist view, anything pragmatic is wrong. I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. I guess I'm too dumb.
Or
I think we should be looking at why when Christ himself how he speaks to us, especially through the Gospel of Matthew, of how we go about looking at what we do as individuals first before what we do as society. And the problem that we have is that there's this threat or this temptation or this push.
That's fine. Nobody has a problem with that.
Just make the society better by laws, which
no. And see, this is the thing. It's bottom down, focusing on individuals. He just said we should focus on individuals before we focus on the society. Conservatives agree with that. That's conservatism. It's more individual than communal. And some anarchists would disagree. Ancoms are for the community. And he thinks, from his perspective, everyone should voluntarily take part in the community. But what about the people who don't? You don't got to take care of them because it's individual. And I'm cool with that. Like, I'm with the individualism. But he just said it. You improve your life. The Christian perspective is you better yourself. You seek God in his right way along with nothing else to become righteous through Christ. Then faith without works is dead. Once you have the faith, once you know that you know that you know that you know that you're a child of God, what do? You feed the needy. You feed the 5,000. You clothe the homeless. You help other people. So you improve yourself so that you can be fruitful and multiply. So then you're working on your family, raise your kids in the right way so that they'll honor you. So then now you're focused on your family. Then you move towards your community. You clothe the homeless. You feed the homeless. You go out, you preach the word. You affect the earth. You know, you're the salt of the earth. So I agree with what he's saying about the individualism, but I think he would also agree that as Christians, eventually we got to branch out. Then it becomes politics.
Then we'll create Christianity. That is the false equivalency.
Do you
here.
think
that
that
is,
if secularists had absolute power in the United States, that they would outlaw Christianity?
Oh, of course, and then we're going to get to a point probably where that doesn't happen.
And your defense to this is what?
And my defense to this is the words of Jesus Christ himself, which is to endure. The words of Christ where he says, if they chase you out of town, then you dust the
So
feet
don't
off.
do anything.
Well, trust in the Lord
Don't
first.
wield the sword.
So your plan, so I just want to make sure your big plan here is to let secularists achieve power, do
Book of
absolutely
Bliss.
nothing
Trust
about
God.
it,
Trust
and then
God.
let them persecute you.
Trust God. Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's not a parable, but it's an old story. That you hear older people tell a lot, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of wrapped as a joke, but it goes something like this. There's a woman who's on top of a building in the middle of a flood, and she prays to God to come rescue her. And God comes down, sends an angel down, and the angel says, listen.
All right. He started the story at the end of the story. The way I tell this is there's a flood coming. It's starting to flood. It's starting to rain. And the news is saying there's a flood coming. And so this lady says, okay, I'm going to pray to God to get me out of this. So she's in her front yard. She's watching the water rise. And a truck comes along. And those guys in the truck say, jump in the back. We'll get you out of here. And she says, no, I'm praying about it. God's got me. So she keeps praying. The water rises up. The waters rise up. And she goes up to the second floor of her house, and the water keeps coming up, and she's putting her head out the window, and a boat comes by on the second floor of her house. And the boat guy's like, get in. We could save you. She's like, no, I'm praying about it. God's got me. The water keeps rising, and she has to swim, and she crawls onto the roof, and now she's on the roof of her house, and the water's almost reached her feet, and it's going to wash her away. And then a helicopter comes in. A black chopper. They say, get in, ma'am. And they throw the thingy down to her with the rope. And she says, no, I'm praying. God's got me. Water rises, washes her away. She's gone. Ain't no sense praying for her no more. She dead. And then she's up at the pearly gates in front of God. She said, God, I was praying that you would send help. He says, what do you think the truck and the boat and the helicopter were, lady?
God's going to save you from this flood. She says, oh, thank you. It's great. And a boat comes up and says, get in the boat. The guy says, get in the boat. And she says, no, God's going to save me. And then the Coast Guard comes up, says, get in the boat. And she says, no, God's going to save me.
I've heard this.
Okay. And then finally,
he heard it from me
a
like
small
2
fishing
weeks
boat passes
before.
and says, lady,
But
you're about to drown.
we've all
Get in the
heard this
boat."
one.
And she says, no, God's going to save me. And she drowns. And she goes to heaven. And she said, I thought you said you were going to save me. He said, I tried fucking 3 times to save you. What are you talking about? The reason that's such a kind of a great joke, the irony around the joke is exactly the irony which you are giving us today, which is essentially
sit back
hey,
and do nothing.
we trust
and just
and do
pray
nothing.
about it.
We have faith and do nothing, and all we have to do is sit and wait. God gave us no agency. God gave us no ability. Gave us no ability to participate in the society around us. No, I'm sorry. Let me ask you a question. Oh, I'm making an error on that one. Okay. Well, let's find out if I'm making an error. Jesus Christ came from the line of what?
Came from the line of David.
And David was a what?
He was a king.
David was a king. Do kings usually have kingdoms?
Yes, they do.
Do they impose laws?
Yes, they do.
Did David impose some pretty brutal laws?
He did.
He did. That's really weird. That's really strange. That
And that's what makes it interesting that why Jesus would come from David, because if you think about it, go back all the way when people are going to Samuel and saying your sons are not doing enough, we need a king. And they're on the surface, they're asking for a right thing. They're asking for a good thing because they're seeing that there is degens going on in the kingdom. But the problem is their intention.
And they demanded a king.
They demanded a king
to come in and impose what?
Law.
And order.
And it's the same. But the problem was they were also looking at other kingdoms. They also came from a place where they had also been used to having the boot of the Egyptians. They had come from a time. They had all this in that culture.
This part sounds exactly like the conversation me and Moseman had. Like everything Andrew's saying, I had just said to Moseman a couple weeks before. I brought up the boat lady story, and then we went to the Old Testament and the kings. Now, what John didn't say there that he said to me, Andrew said they demanded a king. And then John said, or I said, God gave them, when I was talking to John, I said, God gave them a king. And John said, no, they demanded a king. Well, they did demand a king, but it was prophesied way before that was going to happen. So, like, God already knew. And I don't know how to get to this island. I need to get over there, I think. So, yeah, they demanded the king, but God already knew they were going to demand a king, and he told them they were going to have the king. And it actually says that God gave them the king.
And what they didn't realize is
It says God chooses the kings. If you jump on, I'll download. JS, you should try Path of Exile, free-to-play RPG game in the vein of Diablo. 6 classes, huge skill tree to build your characters. If you jump on, I'll download. Well, damn, how much are they paying you for that ad read? Sounded like a commercial.
is that they did have
It's Black Myth Wukong. I don't know how to get down to the. I'm back on the Turtle Island. I'm backtracking because we can make a hub city where we don't have to travel all around to get to all the like upgrade guys anymore. And we get there somewhere from this Turtle Island. I missed it last time, but I don't know how to get down there. Oh wait, maybe this is it. Oh, is this new? Why is this tree sparkling? I feel like I'm going the wrong way if I go this way. I need to get down there. I don't know.
agency in themselves to do with it, but they did not want to have to handle the responsibility themselves. But all of this just shows to me, which is that I think
are you talking about?
Of what Christ
No,
is
there's
saying
nothing.
when
There's
he's
nothing
talking in Matthew, when he's talking in Matthew 12,
dude.
when he's telling people
Did he make apostles bishops?
did he make apostles bishops? Yeah. Before we go into the whole apostolic succession argument here,
I'm not even going to go into that argument. What I'm asking is, do they have some type of authority that other people do not have within the church?
Yes,
they do.
Yes.
So there's a hierarchy which exists there?
There was a hierarchy that existed.
Yeah, and do they have rules? Do they have regulations? Do they have orders? Do they have things in which they enforce on behalf of the church? Can they excommunicate your ass from the church?
They can, yes.
They can, yes. And so the thing is like, that's really weird because it seems like there's some type of hierarchical authority which is there to impose morals on you. And if you fall short of the morals, there's a consequence.
The problem, though,
super weird.
The
super
problem
weird,
you're having here is that what you're saying is that you're going to now say that the way that we have the rules now in the church, the way we have the authority in the church now, that is the way in which Christ intended. And I think that's pretty clear that if you're going to say that, especially if you're going to say that from the perspective of wanting the church to be more involved in the government, then I think you're clearly missing the context of Jesus' words when he says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. Meaning there is a distinction and separation there. No, I don't think I am.
No, I think you are. I think that you seem to be misunderstanding that just because you're a Christian, that doesn't mean that you don't participate in the world around you.
No, I do believe
especially to affect change. You don't have to live in a fucking degenerate society at all. You can participate. Hang on, let me finish. Let me finish and I'll let you talk.
Okay.
You can participate inside of the society that you're in order to have rules, orders, and regulations.
I don't know how to get over there.
Impose those wills on other people who would violate them in order to keep your community, in some way viable. There's no problem with that at all. That's the opposite of anarchy, by the way. The complete opposite of anarchy. Why in the world would it ever be problematic for you in a Christian community to impose orders and rules and regulations for how you want that community to be run? And if there's violators of those rules, there's some type of consequence. That makes no sense to me at all.
I know it doesn't make sense to you. So what I'm saying here is that first of all, it doesn't come from the top-down system.
Make it make sense then.
Part of the reason why we have the problems that we have. I agree. When you start with the vocations that you have, whether it be the vocation of being a father, a vocation of being a mother, a vocation of being a husband, when you start with those vocations that you have, you start with those small circles. Yes, there are times when you have to impose rules, you have to impose authority. However, understanding what is what of God and what is of man,
that's not anarchy.
It is in the sense of this. volunteerism and understanding the personal responsibility that we have
What?
to come to Christ
Volunteerism.
Okay,
and to
well,
live that vocation
you
without
live in a
having
volun- you
without
live in
What
a
about the
trying to
people who
live
don't
and have moral
voluntarily
order
do it?
pushed on us
Okay.
through a government
Sure.
because people think that the superficial infrastructure of hierarchy is itself the guarantor of
Then tell
orthodoxy
me
or
right
truth.
now, in the current society of the United States, by this definition of voluntarism, right?
So I've already brought this up to John before. Does he believe in God's order? God over Christ, Christ over man, man over woman, woman over children. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. That's 1 Corinthians 11:3. That's a hierarchy. I don't know how to get down to where I need to go.
How is this not an anarcho-Christian state right this second?
Oh, it is an anarcho-Christian state, and I would argue that
Why isn't it?
there is
It
no such
sounds
thing
like
as
it
an
is.
anarcho-Christian. There is no such thing as an anarcho-Christian.
Yeah,
state.
no, stop. Your definition
Because
of voluntary is
it's
or,
stateless.
voluntary participation.
Because anarchy is
Mhm.
In the United
stateless.
States, you cannot impose your religion on another person. You agree with that, right? Including Christianity.
Correct.
You're not allowed to do that. You can only evangelize them, right?
Correct.
Okay, and you can't impose your moral authority on people, right?
Correct.
Okay, and everything in the United States is strictly voluntary, right?
Almost everything, yes.
Yeah. So how is this not
That's
exactly the state
So
that you're
stupid
postulating?
bats.
because I'm not arguing for a Christian anarcho state. I'm arguing for Christian anarchism as a system of how we ethically deal with the issue
System.
of how much or how less we try to
A
import
political
the church
system?
into the government of Christian values into the because we do see that when Christian values start to be forced and start to be artificially put into things, it ceases to be both Christian. It ceases to both be those things. And
That
so
sounds like the society we currently live in that you're postulating. What are the distinctions between this society we live in right now and what it is you're advocating for? That's my question.
the difference that I'm advocating, what I'm saying is that the Christian anarchists would argue the personal responsibility that they have. And so again, anarchy in the anarchical system, it's all about voluntarism. It's about not forcing people. It's about understanding those things. But take that outside, that is part of it. Then you take the Christian aspect of it, which is the understanding that as Christians, our primary role is to teach people through our vocation, is to reach people through our vocation. And
How
not
is that
try
different
to,
than what we have right now? It sounds like it's exactly the same
well, we
thing.
may have something like that right now, or to similar to that degree.
Well, then give me the differences then.
Well, again, I don't think you're arguing of differences because again, you wouldn't call this.
So there's no
Christian
difference?
anarcho states. I'm saying there's no.
Well, you wouldn't call it that, but by your definition, I would call it that. It sounds like it's exactly what we have right now. A voluntary society based around the fact that Christians cannot impose their will on anyone. Sounds like the exact society we
Well,
live in
I'm
right
not,
this second.
but what I'm saying is that it's not about it in an ideological or governance system. I'm talking about it from an ethical system of how we deal with the issue. Yes, you're right. To
This
some
sounds
degree,
like ethically it's the same thing.
that
I don't
is
even
very-
see a distinction
well,
ethically.
I'm going to say it's very close, but obviously we would argue that the society is post-Christian at best. Yes.
So you think that the United States then is a Christian anarchist society? That's what you're advocating
No,
for?
it's
Is
not
the
what I'm-
status quo?
I told
Then,
you.
then you
I'm
need
not
to give me a
advocating.
delineation. Then give me the delineations. Give me the things that set it apart. That's what I want to hear.
What do you mean the things that set it apart?
What makes the United States not a Christian anarchy? What makes it not that?
Because what I'm talking about is from a purely individual ethical system. That is
Yeah.
not a system that can be imported into a state system. It can't be put into a cultural system because of the fact that there are people out there who are in error, they're in sin, they don't have a relationship with Christ, whatever, they're not in the church, whatever which way you want to express that idea. Because of that, what we're seeing is we live in a fallen world, in a country that is at odds with a lot of, like I said, at best it's post-Christian, right? If it was ever Christian at
No,
all,
this doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to figure this out again. I'm trying to be as charitable as I can be to this view,
I know.
and I'm trying to understand it. But what you're saying here is that no, this is not a Christian anarchy society because in a Christian anarchy society, this blank
There's no such
thing
thing as
would
a
be
Christian
different.
anarchy state. That's
Yeah,
the
I know.
problem. You're
In
trying
one,
to push
I
that.
know, but whichever one you're proposing, if there was
I'm not
one,
proposing it. I'm not proposing Christian anarchy as
This
as
is the-
as
this
as
is
an
the
ideology. I'm
cop-out.
not proposing it for a government. I'm not proposing it for a society or a cultural system. I'm saying
This is the cop out. We just say, I'm going to say anarchy is a political system, It is a political philosophy. It is a political ideology. It is a concept for how we're going to organize a society. And he's going to say, no, it's not. It's absent a state. It's absent politics. It's absent hierarchy. No, it's not, because God embedded these things into us to figure out how to live. We structure our families. We structure our communities, our cities. When we don't, we have damn Kerplakistan.
Saying it works, and at the end of my opening statement, I did say
Wait.
I'm
What
not
works?
advocating
What
this
works?
as a system.
What?
I'm not
What?
advocating this as a system that should be in itself wholesale adopted. I am saying
It's
is
a fun
an
game.
important conversation.
hard.
It's an important ethical way of how we deal with this question, especially because we are
Okay.
seeing people more and more trying to push
Let us
Christianity
assume. Hang on.
into
Let us
populism and
pretend.
nationalism
I get
and
it. I
anything
get it.
else.
I get it. Let us pretend in a hypothetical,
Okay.
that there was a Christian anarcho society.
What
in
would
a
it look like?
hypothetical, purely
Okay.
hypothetically.
Okay.
Ideal world.
What does that society look like that this
But he
society
won't
doesn't
engage
look
this.
It's
like?
not going to look. There's nothing in that within that system that will create a society that would be different from what a lot of other societies look like. Because again, the point is not so much about creating society as it's about how we live within the society. It's very much akin to things like the Benedict option. It's very much akin to the things of the idea of how we live as dissidents in a society. How we through our organic vocations and through our individual lives promote the values of Christianity without the going overboard and pushing ourselves into a system where we start saying, let's just shame all the coomers because that's the only way they're going to stop doing the porn.
I guess then, if Christian anarchism just means all societies which exist, I don't even know where to go with the argument, honestly. Like, if there's no delineation between
Right.
this and
And I
any other
understand
society,
why you're
then
showing
I don't even fucking understand it. I don't even understand
I
what
know.
you're
Because
advocating.
I think you're looking purely for an ideological system. I think you're trying to advocate, and I know you've said this in the past, that is mainly one of the
This
goals
is
you look
not an
at.
ideological system.
No.
No, I'm saying it's not a wholesale ideological system. It is a very individualistic idea based on philosophies of how we cooperate, how we start from the bottom up, how we talk about things, how we fix issues, with the understanding, and that's the problem. I will agree is. And that's my point. Yes, in a system, of any world system, any government system, you're going to need force of law to be able to ensure its ability.
So
to
okay,
exist.
so let me try it this way.
But we can
If we
agree
could- if
that
we
totalitarian
hypothetically-
governments and authoritarian governments do
Yeah.
exist, and as a result, what is the stopgap for that? What
If
causes
we
people
so
to
if
stop?
we
What
hypothetically,
would cause us to be if we adopted
Yeah,
a system of
I-
Christian
hang on.
populism that
Let me
becomes
ask you a
nationalism,
question.
What
Maybe this will
would
help.
stop that from going into a system where we become a Christian authoritarian state? Because at that point,
What would be a problem if we? What would be a
because it would
problem if we
cease
were?
being Christian if it was authoritarian.
Why?
Because authoritarianism is anathema to Christianity.
Bullshit. Prove it.
No, Christ himself tells us these things. We know that Christ tells us.
Christ says,
Blessed are the meek who inherit the earth. We know that Christ tells us.
Yeah, but
things.
what does that mean?
What does it mean? It means
Yeah.
that people who are humble, people who seek after the Lord first,
you can't
no
be
matter
humble
what happens
and
on earth, they will inherit.
Does that mean that they can't have authority?
It means you have to be careful.
Right.
Because blessed are the peacemakers.
That be careful doesn't tell me anything.
I'm saying.
Does it mean you can't have authority because you're humble?
it
A
means
leader
that you
could
have to
make
have the
peace.
ultimate authority, which is trust in
why
God.
can a leader
Yeah, I
not
get
make
that, but
peace?
can you have no earthly authority and be humble? I don't get that.
The problem
can't
is
you?
the more centralized authority you get, the more
Mhm.
you have to impose force as a way.
No, you
of
don't.
accomplish- Yes, you
The
do.
less force you have to impose.
No, because
Yes. Do you think?
maybe
do you
at
think,
one point
okay,
you've already
here,
won a
let's
war
prove
for
it.
it. You get to
Let's
that
prove.
point.
Hey, let's prove it. Let's prove it. I can prove it to you right now. Somalia right now. Okay, lots of force going on. Not a lot of law.
Right.
Here in the United States, a whole lot of law. Not a lot of force going on. Right. Really weird though, because there we
Right.
have kind of a more anarcho style system.
Uh-huh.
Here we have more of an authoritarian style system. Super weird. I thought that you just got done telling me that it should be reversed, that wherever this anarchy system is, where there's no central authority, there should be less of this type of violence, right?
I didn't make
Less
that,
force.
I didn't make that equation.
Yes, you did. You said
No,
you
no.
said
I said
centralizing authority.
I said the more
leads to more
centralizing
force.
authority you get, the more in order to get that power, the more you have to use force. Now that does not
No.
necessarily mean by
No,
violence.
prove it.
It means
Prove
by
it.
coercion. It could mean by using the threat of
Like
of
laws. Are laws
taxation.
coercion? Are laws
What?
coercion?
Law has to use coercion to some
Well,
degree.
and what? So then coercion's not even bad by this definition.
It is
Unless
bad.
you're saying so, then laws are bad.
I'm saying laws can be bad. Yes, they can be.
They can be is not answering the question. I didn't ask you if they can be bad. I asked you if they are inherently bad or not.
Laws
Oh.
are not inherently bad.
But they are inherently coercive. So
If
therefore,
the
coercion is
more
not inherently
centralized they are,
bad.
the more higher
So,
end of
so,
power and
so let me
authority
help you out
they're
here. So
asking
let me
This
help you
is-
out here with your
okay.
position.
All right.
So if laws are not
I don't know why John makes these ultimatums like this. He does it with pragmatism. He'll say things like coercion is bad. Is coercion always bad? No. Is pragmatism always bad? No.
not inherently bad. And
There's a
all laws
time
use
and a
coercion,
place for
then you have to be
everything.
saying that coercion's not inherently bad.
No, I'm saying that
Yes.
laws
No.
that use coercion are
Repeat my
bad.
argument. Repeat my argument to me.
You said
Repeat it.
if laws depend on coercion
Mm-hmm.
and laws themselves aren't bad, then you're saying that coercion can't itself be bad by the logic of what you
Right.
said. Yes.
That's and can you give me a rebuttal to that?
I
That
can't.
actually deals with the logic. If A then B, if B then C.
Because what I'm saying, and maybe I misspoke, so let me get back and recorrect what I'm saying. Laws that are that require more coercion, that would require more authority, it would require more force. Those laws, the more that centralization goes up, the more that power it requires up, the more that becomes a problem.
Yeah, that doesn't tell me anything, or it doesn't become a problem.
Coercion in a very small miniature sense is not bad. What makes coercion bad is when it becomes bigger. That's the thing with anything. So
let's find out. Let's find out if this is true or not.
So
Okay?
where's the line?
Would you
What
agree
size?
that a law which
Then you do the how long
could
to how many
potentially
grains of
penalize,
sand till you have a
half
pile
the
of sand?
population of the United States would be highly coercive?
When is power? When do you have too much
It's not
power?
necessarily going to be, but it can
Is
be.
it over
Yeah, I mean,
10
because it's
people,
scale, right?
100 people,
Yes.
1,000
Yeah,
people?
Okay, so like an anti-abortion law would be highly coercive, wouldn't it?
It could be.
And I can
Yeah,
show
not
you
very
in the
bad, though, is
Bible
it?
where God commands
result
them
isn't-
to
just
make
because
captains over the tens and the hundreds and the thousands.
The ends are good doesn't mean the means are themselves.
Yeah, the means here of enforcing that you can't murder children aren't good.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, okay, and this is what I'm asking you. Would you want an overly coercive anti-abortion law which says that women can no longer have abortions or not?
What I would want is I would want for us to be able to first, before we even think about using law to try to stop abortion, I would ask that we try to go into the communities and go into people and speak to this issue and advocate that they don't do it.
Oh, you mean like they did in order to get them to do it in the first place? Because that's what happened when they equaled the playing field, is that Margaret Sanger and the rest of the eugenicists went into black communities and used the church in order to have them advocate
They perverted
for
it.
it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Have
They
them
perverted it.
advocate for it. So the thing is like,
So now you're saying that
wait
you
a second,
shouldn't go out and
I want to make
advocate
sure,
position?
I get
That
this
doesn't make
right.
sense.
You wouldn't want to see a law imposed outlawing abortion tomorrow.
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm asking you.
Huh?
Would you want a law outlawing abortion tomorrow?
Would I want a law that would outlaw abortion tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Catherine.
It would be nice. Yeah, it'd be great.
And so you would support such a law?
Depending on how the law is made, yes.
You go to jail if you have an abortion forever.
I don't think that would be a just thing.
Oh, okay. So if you murder somebody, should you go to jail for life?
I don't necessarily know if that's a just without understanding all the circumstances in the situation. I think that
It's
not
murder,
only-
which means an unjustified killing of somebody on purpose.
well.
Oh, I need
now
to
we're
kill that
arguing
guy. I
and
found
that
him.
is where punishment comes into play.
That's the
because
guy I need
That's
to
what
kill.
murder is an unjustified killing.
Okay, but are you arguing that almost every woman at some point in the history of mankind has knowingly known these things?
Well,
That
I
they
just
were
wasted
built up in
that.
a
I'm
system or
not
a faulty
arguing
belief
about the
system?
history of mankind. I'm arguing about current history. So what history in the making? I'm arguing about common knowledge.
I keep
Right this
wasting my.
second, do you agree with me that abortion is murder?
I do believe.
Ow.
So this would be an unjustified killing.
It would be an unjustified.
So
killing,
if you penalized a woman, let's just say
That's
for
the
20
guy I'm
years in
looking
jail,
for.
would you support that?
I think that's probably might be a better thing, but the jail itself is another problem and another system of a faulty
Oppression.
system of how we deal with law and how we deal with.
So what do we
crime and punishment.
do?
Okay,
You
but
don't
if
want
you would
prisons or
endorse
jails?
a law tomorrow
This is where it
using
gets
this
crazy.
kind of coercion in order to stop this fucking horrific thing from happening, right? Then how is this an advocacy for the system of Christian anarchy, which by your definition proposes instead no such law be made, and rather you just try to use some type of argumentation to convince people out
Because
of it?
what I'm arguing for is an understanding that Christians have to endure and acknowledge that the world cannot be perfect. It will not be perfect for whatever reason.
Nobody's
that might
saying
be.
it's they
I know.
don't say that, dude.
I know, but that's the problem, is that this is the threat that happens when we say, well, if we could just do this and we could just make this magical thing happen, it would be all better off by tomorrow. There are lots of things that cause the problems that we
Yeah,
have.
you know, the thing is that this is kind of silly too, right? So if you can't pay your rent, for instance, and somebody assists you in paying your rent, that definitely makes the problem of you not being able to pay your rent that month go away, right?
No.
No?
If you can't pay your rent and somebody pays your rent that month, the problem of you paying your rent that month went away, right?
That month, yeah.
No, sorry, I was trying to understand what you're saying. I see
Oh,
what you're
yeah.
saying, yes.
Yeah. So there are immediate things which you can do very quickly for all sorts of different issues
Yes.
in order to solve those problems quickly. That doesn't mean that it's a utopia or that in every single case it's going to be perfect, right? But you can still have something that's way better. Way better.
Where did that guy go?
Just like a law which is coercive. Now, you just got done saying, for instance, you don't like the idea of jail.
He was right over here.
Right?
And that's what I said. I said I don't like the idea of how jail is right now.
Well, what should jail be?
I think that jail should be where people who are dangerous, people who are a danger to society should be.
Jail should be what?
A place for violent offenders who are a threat to society.
Okay, that's what
And that's
jail
it.
is.
Yeah, I think there's other ways you can reform and punish people without going to a correctional facility like that. Yes.
What if they sell drugs to little kids?
Well, that right there is a danger to society.
Yeah, but you said violent.
Well, there's a lot of violence in drugs.
Yeah, but you yourself are not committing a violent act by selling
Game
drugs.
froze.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that there are situations where putting someone
Where
in
did that
prison
guy
because they're
go?
a threat to society or because they're a violent criminal is justifiable.
You mean like what we do right now?
Yes.
Okay.
How
so
did I
then
miss
there's
all
no-
this the
so,
first
I mean,
time?
What's your issue with prison or jail?
Bro, my game
The
is
issue
freaking out.
Is how we go about looking at, because with jail we have a lot of people who are put in jail who are non-violent offenders who then become violent, or they
You mean like
become
they stole they stole
institutionalized in
grandma's?
other types of criminals.
Oh, you mean like they stole
criminal.
grandma's retirement money?
Well, I mean, obviously they did something to put them in that
Yeah.
situation.
So what the fuck is wrong with sending them to jail?
What I'm saying, and again, it goes back to whether
That sounds like everybody who's going to jail is a threat to society if they're breaking the laws, right?
understanding what laws they broke and why they broke the laws. I think it matters.
Yeah, maybe that matters at a kind of a foundational level, trying to understand it so that you can solve more, so that they do this less, right? But there's still going to be tons of people who just break the law, and you send their ass to jail, right? That's what you do with them.
Yeah.
Why is my game freaking
That's
out?
it. So I'm trying to figure out, I guess, since I think what you mean when you say Christian anarchism is just status quo plus evangelism. That's all it really sounds like to me. Status quo
It's not,
and
but
plus
I understand-
evangelism.
I understand that's why what I'm saying is I'm arguing for us as Christians to think about how we deal with the issue of societal change without focusing and putting too much emphasis, because we have to be
where did
careful
that
when
guy
we're talking about
go?
societal change, because there are things that are more important than politics. There are things that are more important than ideological positions. There's more things, and we also know that there's no.
Bro, my game
all
is
things that are
freaking
happening,
out.
No matter what
What
happens,
is
we have to
happening?
have ultimate trust in God. We have to put trust in God. And sometimes when we try to solve some of our problems through a system of government, through a system of regulations, where we're trying to then
Okay.
ourselves fix the problem, we can sometimes make worse problems. We a lot of times can also put
And
less
now,
focus on things.
unfortunately, John, right? I've been charitable, but now I really do understand this position pretty well now that we've been going through
I
it.
don't know why my
So now I'm
game's
going to,
freaking out.
Unfortunately, have to end this position very quickly for you. It's
Okay.
going to be a bad look for you, but it needs to be done. John, you have a magic wand in your hand tomorrow. that
Fighting
you
the
can
turtle?
wave, and any laws you want come into fruition, and any laws you want change, and any government change that you want happens immediately. Any of those things happen at a legislative level immediately. Which ones do you do?
I don't even know where to start on that.
Yeah, none. You couldn't name a one, could you? Not a one.
Of a law that I'd want changed?
Any laws or any government change or anything. You couldn't name anything, could you?
Well, the
Could you
point
give
of
us? Can you give us a single prescription, John? A single one?
the reason is because I do not believe that what ails the world is not going to be by trying to fix the world, but
Yeah,
by
no.
fixing the individual.
So you wouldn't do anything with the wand.
I again, without understanding what you mean by I mean, because again, here's the problem with
You
with
understand
the
what he
question and it is
means.
implying is that all the
Your
things
ideal
that
world.
we know naturally and logically that happen as a result of laws happening and becoming reality. You can't
John,
divorce those things.
yeah,
And
Your
if they
ideal
would, then now
community.
we're talking about living in another world that doesn't have anything to do with the real world.
What's
I know,
your
but
ideal
you know what a
community
hypothetical
look
is designed
like?
to do.
I know what a hypothetical is designed for.
What is it designed for?
Hypothetical is designed to put you in a position of
It's just
asking
designed
you a
to test your
question
logic.
to
It's just
determine
designed
your
to test
logic.
logic.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Just designed to test your logic. So, John, on the ground,
don't
in
know
this
why my game's
hypothetical world,
freaking out.
which is a complete mirror to this one, except there's one
Look,
magic
I'm
wand
getting
which
stuck in
exists,
stuff.
and when you wave it, you can have any policy changes that you want. You pick up the wand, and you do what with it?
I don't know, because to me, I don't think about government or laws in the way that I think about what I need to do as an individual, as I need to do in my vocation, what we can do as a church, what we can do in outreach and communities, because the prescription for the world that we have is not in trying to make a law that will make it better or try to make a law that will prevent something from happening. It is about understanding that the world is fallen, we are in sin, we are under the dominion of the devil, and that the answer to everything, and there's going to never be a perfect, we know that, but my important thing is this: yes, if there was an ability to take a magic pill or to have a magic wand and say, hey, I want everybody to be able to do the right thing and,
No,
and,
I'm
and
not
follow the
asking
words.
you about.
I know,
Hang on,
but
hang on. The reason I specifically asked did not give you the ability to change human behavior is because I want to know if we were to
There
map
he is.
on what John wants and he had the ability
Your ideal
to change
community.
any policy whatsoever, any government officials, any of these things.
It's a simple
that he could-
question.
right now, right this second, it's in your lap. You just wave the wand and it happens. I can give you dozens off the top of my head. You can't give me one?
I mean, other than I would prefer a decentralization of our system. But then again, that would require me to believe that the way of getting that is by going against the thing that I think is the problem in the first place.
Yeah, it just seems like mental masturbation to me. It seems like what you're doing is saying, look, it would sure be nice if we could change the minds of people to do X. Great. Go ahead. Go out there. John, I'm not stopping you. Go change everybody's mind and make
I
them
can't
better
change everybody's
Christians.
mind. That's the reality. I can't change everybody's
Yeah, well, I
mind.
mean, go change as many minds as you can in order to make it a reality. But I'm just going to tell you right now that, unfortunately, you're going to have to impose law. You're going to have to impose will. You're going to have to impose some kind of order in order for people, even people who you think are good ethical, people who have a great grounded foundation, can run across situations where they lose their shit, dude. Where they just lose their shit. That's human nature. That's part of the ontology of men. Sometimes they just lose their fucking minds for no good reason. Good moral men, been moral for 40 fucking years, never done anything wrong, go to church on Sunday, only humping the missionary style. They do. One day, they just lose their fucking shit for no good reason, man. And in that particular case, and there's many such cases, you're going to have law, and you're going to have order, and you're going to have force doctrine, you're going to have all these things. Your move to decentralization doesn't tell me what you actually want to do. It doesn't really tell me much.
Right, because you believe that the way to solve problems is by using law and by using government.
Game is
and
running weird.
To believe that somehow will fix the problems. And I agree.
It sure seems to fix a lot of problems when you have control of government agencies. It seems to fix tons of problems.
Right.
So
and
it's
you know
true
what?
that
You
government
know
can
what?
impose
And you know who would
problems,
say
but it
that
can
right
also
now?
fix them.
You know who would say that right now? That people would say, well, you know what would fix the problem with all these angry parents at PTA meetings is if we, pass a law that
Lock
that
them
says,
up.
the
This is
FBI
when they
put
were
the
locking
FBI
up.
involved. There's a lot of times where it is very effective to use a law that will help.
And how do you
something
combat that?
societies don't want.
You mean all those schools was voluntary to
So
send your
you
children
would
to?
vote for that
Well,
to
yeah,
not
sure.
happen,
Isn't
right?
that what you want?
Huh?
Isn't that what you wanted? You
No,
wanted
it's
them
not.
to be
It
able
has
to
nothing to do with-
voluntarily participate, John. That's what it is right now.
I'm saying you're missing my point, and I think you know why you're missing the point. Because
Why would it matter if the school had, let's just say the school rolled out the policy and said, everybody at the PTA, the FBI is going to be investigating you. It's totally voluntary, right, John?
I mean, it's totally voluntary.
Totally voluntary. Send your kid to the school. Totally
Fine, I
voluntary to
wouldn't
be a
send my
member of
kid
the
to school system
PTA.
if I had one.
Yeah, that's it. So it's a completely voluntary system. You're just basically just advocating the status quo. That's it.
No, I'm acknowledging that the world, and this is the problem, is people that would look at my position and say, you don't want to change the world, you don't want to fix the world. The problem is when it comes with understanding what is the fundamental problem in the world, and the problem is why people do the things they do. We have to look at that and not just say, because it's easy to say, well, yeah, we'll make a bunch of crime or we'll make a bunch of laws now and then we'll deal with the issue. Well, we've been doing that for how long? We've never really dealt with the issue of why there is crime in the way that there is. A lot of times, what
That's because
also creates crime
we
is
did.
the law.
Yes,
we pass a law and say you can't do this type
Don,
of behavior,
yes,
and then it creates another force of crime.
This is an issuance of modernity. No, governments were far more effective, even in the United States, just 60 years ago, when it came to crime, when it came to punishment, when it came to these types of issues. Okay, the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, yes, there was limited pockets of organized crime. I would argue that there's even more organized crime now. They just use blue-collar tactics rather than bootleg tactics. Okay, but again, I think, no, there has been many, many times where the precursor of law has been far more effective and people have been able to deal with these types of things on a localized level in a much easier way. And that you are basically just looking at modernity and saying, oh, it's unfixable, fuck it, right? I'm just black-pilled, it's unfixable, screw it. The only thing that we can do is decentralize government. Well, John, why not take government over using the processes which are available to you so that we can do something? Instead of just going, well, if I had a magic wand, I don't even know what the fuck I would do if I had power. If you were Emperor John, you don't even know what you would do.
I've seen this type of philosophy and what it does. And when we get to this point where we're focused more on the organization than the message, when we're focused more on how something works and making something happen a certain way, and then we lose something along the way in that process. We lose things. And that when you look at the words of Jesus, when he's warning about it, when they're like, he's like, yeah, give honor to honor, who is to honor due. Yeah, there are times when life is, he's not advocating for slavery, but he's acknowledging that people are going to be in slavery. Evil is going to happen. And when that is, you don't try to fight it. That's the instinct of humanity.
You don't try to fight it?
Evil.
Oh, you just let evil rule you.
No.
Well, then
God literally commanded people to fight it. He commanded Moses to bring his people out of slavery. This is a little kind of political. Set up a new kingdom to defy the current elite and set up your own kingdom with your own land laws and your own values. God commands Moses to do that.
How do you not let evil rule you if you're unwilling to fight it, John? By
Because
the way,
there's more than
let me
more
give you
reason fighting than just
let me
violence.
give you a different
Or
parable,
run.
right? Or perhaps a saying, if you want to say it that way.
Oh, whatever.
Evil prevails when good men what?
Do nothing.
Do nothing. And your prescription is good men should do nothing when evil comes around because
That's not what I'm. That's not my prescription.
literally,
You're-
John. I'm
you're-
going to
you're
give you
mixing
your
my words
position.
up.
Nope, I'm not. I'm going to
You
give
are,
your
buddy.
position back
You
to you,
are.
buddy.
Nope.
Here's your position, buddy.
Buddy.
Here's what you said, buddy. You said when what happens is evil tries to rule us, and we're too busy trying to force our way back against evil.
Yes, when we
That
are
would
in
be
the
good men doing something. That's the point.
But doing something does not necessarily prescribe that we have to do something in a centralized way that would allow us to also risk making more.
Then you can't combat it. You can't combat it. You can't combat these giant states which exist cannot be combated absent other giant states. They can't be. It's impossible.
That's not what I'm saying.
It's like saying, "Oh,
That's not what
okay."
I'm saying. So you're
No, but
making
it-
straw
but-
man
but
here, try to
I'm not.
diminish my point.
John,
because,
John, let me finish my point.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Don't cut in. Let me just finish the point.
Dude, my
What I'm saying to you is
screen
that,
keeps
no,
doing
this
something
type of
weird.
thing, when you're talking about, oh, well, they don't have to use force to push back against the evil. What the hell does that mean? Then what can they do? What can they do absent that to push back?
What do you think?
I don't know what my game is like glitching out on me. I don't know what's happening. See, it keeps flashing like that. Why is it doing that? I think it's something with the display cable or something. I don't know what's happening in the game.
I think the Bible says.
Yeah, well, I know what it says, but are you advocating from your worldview that it's telling you to be passive and just take it?
There's times when it says dust off your feet and move on. It tells us that not to worry about the wicked because they will flourish.
That was
There's a
Tolstoy's
prescription there because
pacifism
when men
was his
worry,
main focus.
When men put too much thought into something, whether that be the evils of the world or of a state, or when it's dealing with whether or not if we're concerned about what we're
Worry's
gonna eat tomorrow,
gay. I
the
agree
point
with
is,
that.
First, we have to then put our trust in God. We put our trust in God first, making sure that whatever prescription that we have for whatever issues we are dealing with, we're first and foremost trusting God. That has to be the primary thing. And that's why, as a Christian anarchist, what I'm saying is
there's no
this is
reason why you
prescription
can't do that and still resist evil. There's no reason you can't do both.
but there is a potential for you to lose focus of Christ.
Which is worse than doing nothing?
I think to lose focus on Christ is a greater
You're not
problem.
losing focus on
I'd
Christ.
rather
You keep
lose
on
my
making-
soul
you
than
keep
than
on
gain
Just
the world.
because you do
keep on
something
baking
else,
in that
you don't
somehow,
have
if you
focus on
resist
Christ
marauding
anymore.
bands of
Yep.
lunatics,
No,
or
I actually said if they come on your property, they've sacrificed.
What do you mean
they
property?
don't need to come on your
Unfinished violence.
property to cause all sorts of problems. What, they're burning down the neighbor's property, right? Any of this is cause for you to do something, John. Not just stand there and go with your thumb up your ass and say, well, I hope God takes care of it.
That's not
Right?
what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying. Your
No, what
whole
I'm-
position, here's John's whole position. Your whole position is, don't worry about it. Don't worry
That's
about it,
not-
man.
that's not what I'm
Because
saying.
as long as you have faith in Christ and God and Jesus Christ, your Savior, man, you got nothing to worry
What
about.
good
Dude,
does it
I
do
don't-
to gain the world and lose your soul?
Look at my
Yeah, but
screen.
you're not gaining
What is
the world
this?
by resisting evil.
Why is it
That's
doing
not you
this?
gaining the world. What
Gaining
that-
the world when you try to
what you're
overtake
referring
the world.
to is a conversation which happens with Satan, where Satan offers the entire world to Jesus Christ.
Right.
Okay,
He's
and he
tempting
says,
him.
hang on, he says no. Okay, him saying no was resisting evil. Yes, you agree?
Yes, that's a good way of resisting evil.
Yes, that's a great way of resisting evil. Saying no, right?
Right.
Saying no.
But he didn't Sparta kick him off the freaking thing. Go, this I am Jesus. And, did a kick and then he goes off the. Off
Didn't
the thing.
have
No, he didn't.
to. He didn't have to.
No,
because
he didn't.
But why? Because the ultimate force lay with Christ. Because
Yes.
he could have.
Oh, he could have if he wanted
Yeah.
to. Yes.
What could Satan do? He was totally at his mercy.
Yes.
He didn't have the world to give him.
He did have the world to give him.
No, no, he didn't.
He did.
No, he didn't. It was already Jesus's world. Jesus
No,
is
no,
God
this is-
incarnate.
The world that exists now is not. It belongs to Satan. We are told in the
No.
Bible that he is the principalities of the air. We know that he is. That
I'm
he- that
sorry,
even though
I'm
he has
sorry.
been defeated when it comes to salvation.
Satan has dominion over the world, but not the men of the world. So I was gonna write this down too. John brings this up. Satan has dominion over the world, which is a point that I make a lot. So therefore, why would we try to get involved in politics and try to change the world? But so I would ask, Satan has dominion over the world. Does Satan have dominion over you? Dominion over you, over God's children. God's elect. Does Satan have dominion over over you, over his children, over followers of Christ? No. So since we're in the world and Satan doesn't have dominion over us, but he has dominion over the world, we should do what we can to save our brothers. And a good way to do that is by getting involved in politics and not letting them get killed, not letting Christians get slaughtered. That would be a good way to help combat Satan's dominion over the world. He doesn't have dominion over us. I unplugged and plugged my monitor back in. It seems to fix it. I think it was.
So Jesus Christ goes, no more Satan. Is there a Satan?
Well, that's going to happen at the end on the judgment day.
Okay, so John, answer my question. Jesus Christ goes, no more
No,
Satan.
I didn't fix it.
Is there a Satan?
If he was to do that, yeah, there would be no more Satan.
There would be no more Satan. So who has the ultimate force here?
What I'm saying is he did.
John,
have
answer my
heavy.
question. Who has the
Christ
ultimate
does, of
force?
course. Christ
Right.
does.
So
But you're
you
missing the point
can't
here.
offer
You're
me
missing the point.
if I have the monopoly on force, you can't offer me something which is already mine.
Right, but what you're not understanding is that he did have an understanding of the world, that he has the world to some degree, because it's fallen. As soon as Eve and sin entered in the world, we know that. But here's the thing: is that I think is important, because again, at that time, Jesus does what? He fasts. At the time in when he is completely humbling himself and he's completely putting himself underneath.
Why is my screen glitching out like
There's
this?
something to be said about that, of where when you are not allowing yourself to be tempted by the threat, because you say I'm black-pilled, but I say anybody that's like, yeah, the degens are coming for us, we gotta kick back and fight back, then like that to me is a black-pilled response.
Then roll over and take it, John.
I'm not going to roll over and take it.
You are. That's
But
your
I'm
whole
going to
plan.
I am going to live by the words of Christ.
Your
I
whole
will live by the
plan.
words of
Your whole
Christ.
plan is, hey, you know what? No worries. You do you, and I'll just roll over and.
That's not what I'm
take it.
saying. That's another. It's another.
No, that is what you're saying. What else
No,
are you saying?
I'm not saying.
You're
that.
saying, oh, when
I'm
the
not saying
DJs come, when all these people are trying to enforce their morality on us, I'm just gonna take it.
No, I'm not.
Then what
I'm
are you
not
gonna
going
do? What are you gonna do about it?
I am going to stand up against it. I will speak
Endure.
against it. I will advocate against it if that means I get
Will
thrown
you
in
use
jail as a result
legislative?
of it.
You're
will you
gonna
use
endure.
legislative bodies in order to legislate against it?
Whatever means that I have that I can that does not put me in a position of where I'm trying to force something or put my trust in government or political parties.
So nothing.
No,
So
that's not
you're
nothing.
gonna finger wag at him, John? You're gonna be like, now listen here. I know you sucked 100 dicks this week. You really shouldn't be doing that. I don't like it. It's not good for you to do that. That's what you're gonna do, John. That's John's big plan.
No.
John
No,
Moseman's
my
gonna
big
finger
plan-
wag.
My big plan is to go, hey, I'm a red pill ether, and you're not going to be able to come over here, you degen, and then I'm going to take a bazooka and just kill them all, right? That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, I mean that kind of escalated quickly. Nobody's talking about any sort of violence. What I'm
Well,
saying
that's what
is,
happens when someone conflates.
yeah,
a
what I'm
position,
saying,
right?
what I'm saying to you specifically is, well, I wouldn't even care what you said. I'm just looking out for this guy's channel from TOS. But again, it just seems to me that all you're willing to do is finger wag. So here, John Moseman's prescription is, look, when all this shit's going wrong,
And
all these people
endure.
are doing these horrible
Deal with
things,
it
and it's
and
completely
wave your
fucking
finger.
society up, and it's screwing up millions of
You should
children.
endure
and
suffering.
Little kids are having their genitals rearranged.
And
You're gonna
take-
finger wag harder. You're just
Rejoice
gonna be
in your
like,
suffering.
"Ah, you should really
Doesn't mean you
stop
have to
now.
just
That's really
sit there and let it
well, now, I
happen.
could get the government to come in and stop you from doing genital mutilation, but you
Right.
know,
But so how
that
would
could potentially lead
Christian
to not
populism
enough
stop that?
pickles on your
How would Christian
hamburger, so we can't do
populism stop
that.
How would Christian populism stop that?
the Christian
would vote
populism
to
would
make it
utilize the
illegal.
force of law and Christian ethics
Yeah.
in order to
And
make
how would you get that?
impositions.
How would you get that?
Well, the first thing
Through
that you would
force.
do is you would try to utilize the system in order to put people in legislative positions and tell them it's perfectly acceptable to rule based on their morality.
And how do you do that with the current system
Stop
of
talking,
lobbyism?
John. I'm trying to answer your question.
All right.
Okay, so when you're in a position of authority, right, I don't think that there's anything wrong with making moral impositions. I think that governments not only do it all the time, but that's probably okay to do. In most situations, I think it's okay to do. I think that if the person who's making the impositions is ethical, then the impositions that they're making are good. It's good to impose ethics on people. It's good to make them not sacrifice children. It's good to not let them chop off little kids' penises. It's good to do those. It's good to not let
Kill
them jacket
babies.
full of TH or TRC or whatever it is. It's good. All of that's fine. I don't see a problem with it. What I think is that Christians have been beaten down by milquetoast fence setters like yourself who tell them just have faith in God.
I
man,
think I
and
called
the
him
rest will just
milquetoast too.
Take care of itself. It doesn't, John. The rest doesn't just take care of itself. Yes, your immortal soul may be secured, but that's not helping the rest of society. And why shouldn't we participate if we're in positions where we can rule morally? Why shouldn't we?
If it means how it would affect your faith, if it would affect the way you are
It's not
advocating
going to
for
affect
Christ,
your. How's it going to
it
affect
can.
your
It
faith?
can. When you start focusing on things,
Doing
that
nothing
don't-
can.
How would you say that? How could
Because you could say if there is a so here's what I think. I think the reason there's so many atheists who are leaving Protestant churches that their faith is affected because they go, if there was a God, there's no way he
soft.
would let society crumble like this. If there was a God, there's no way that he would have allowed all of this madness to
Or you
happen.
allow humans to
If
do
there was a God, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think that the majority of the crisis of faith is because Christians don't act, and we know we should act, and so people see us as impotent and weak, and they see us as pansies who won't do anything. We just
Yep.
kind of take the Moseman approach and roll over and take it.
Now, I would rather die being and having my integrity and having done right by the words of Christ than
You can have
by-
both.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can rule and still be a devout Christian.
You can't.
Many saints have ruled and were devout Christians. Many kings have
You
ruled
don't
and were
think you
devout
don't, you
Christians.
don't, that's like Henry VIII, that kind of person, right?
Yeah, there can be bad rulers, but there's also great rulers who were kings.
Yeah,
So
that
my
he
point
just
of what
pulls
I'm
out
trying
an
to say is
example of
Yeah,
a bad
what
one.
I'm trying to say on this, John, is that you can have both. You can be a good king, you can be a good politician, you can be a good man at the same time, you can be a devout Christian at the same time. It's not you're a Christian who believes in Christ, or you roll over and let DJs fuck you up the butt. It's not an either or
What do you think is
proposition.
the primary? What do you think is the primary role of a Christian?
Let DJs fuck you up the butt. No, I didn't kill the dust
primary
pail.
role of him in
My
which context?
freaking screen is glitching
What is
out.
the personal mission? Whatever you want to call it, the ultimate goal, the ultimate thing on which a Christian
to bring
strives
people
for.
into the body of the Church of Christ.
Okay. Now, if that is the case, in fact, the primary thing, then is it then something that happens by forcing them to do certain things, or is it by showing them in the Word, showing them the truth, inviting them to church,
Bro,
doing things?
you can't force them to be Christians. What are you talking about? Nobody's saying that would be the elimination of free will. You can't get inside of a person's brain and force them to be a Christian.
So but you do believe in forcing them to go to jail if they don't prescribe to certain Christian methods or morals or ethics.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's the contradiction?
The contradiction is that when you are dealing with people who have legitimate issues of sin, you're dealing with the issue you believe is not to try to seek to show them their error of their ways and then edify them and to help them see the light of Christ and invite them to church and let
Oh,
them
this is
partake
good.
in the sacraments and be a full member of the church and be regenerative in that. You'd rather just say go to jail for the rest of your life and you DJ just we're going to throw you in a pit because you don't succumb to our cultural standards.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you saying that you think that there should be a cultural prism? So, like, if you're a cannibal somewhere, you shouldn't go to jail?
I'm saying,
If cannibalism is legal in a place, John, are they doing something bad?
of course they are.
Yeah. So, what's wrong with sending them to jail?
So your prescription for people who would sin.
I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to let you guys know we've gotten to an hour,
Yeah.
but I did let you both know if it was good and we wanted.
I want to finish up.
Extend the. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Okay,
so I
we'll
just want to
spend another 20 minutes.
I just want to know, why is it that legislating for Christian ethics is bad? Why would that be bad?
Because when you start focusing on trying to force things to happen in a way in which put your mind off of what is the role, when you think about how what Christ is telling people when he's talking about being humble, when he's talking about seeking after righteousness, that when you speak of those types of things and you're doing it with the force of saying,
he doesn't
hey, you got to go to jail
acknowledge
because you
any
watched
of
a
the
bunch porn or whatever, or you got to go to jail
like
because you did this or that. That you're denying those people the ability to come to church. If you're denying those ability,
You're denying them the ability
by
to come
putting
to
them
church,
in
they murder
jail?
somebody, John.
you can go to church
there's
in
a difference
jail.
between that type of crime and other sins which we're also talking
A
about.
lot of
which we would
people
like
come to
probably
Christ
also-
through
Oh
jail.
no, John, that's terrible. Oh, whatever will we do if porn is outlawed? Oh, says, oh man, if people can't coom in a cave in their house to chicks all day long, society is really going to deteriorate, and
That's
it's
not-
really
that's not
it's
the claim I'm
quite
making.
it would
That's
be
not the
really
claim I'm making.
unchristlike. Wouldn't it be unchristlike to advocate that pornography was made illegal and that people who distributed it
I have no
went
problem
to
with
jail?
advocating for that.
Then what the fuck is your problem with me advocating for legislating Christian ethics?
Because there's a point in which,
The only reason
There's
you
a
think
sense-
porn is bad is because of Christian ethics, yeah?
yes,
Okay, and you want pornography illegal, right?
I think that's the preferred.
Then
Yes.
you're legislating Christian ethics, John.
Well, I
Just like
prefer
that.
it.
Just
I
like
prefer
that,
it.
John.
I prefer it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that
So
I-
why not legislate it?
Doesn't mean we should do it.
But because the reason why I can't legislate it, or the reason is I have no problem telling
'Cause
my-
you don't have
my-
any
my
power.
representatives to go do that. But that's
Do-
a that's a
do
top-
what?
that's a bottom down going up. It's me. It's not me trying to.
That sure
Yeah,
sounds like it.
Because no, it's not. Because
So wait, so you elect the legislator.
No, you're.
Then you go to the legislator and you demand that the legislator outlaw a thing you don't like. Legislator does that. This is John Moseman using the political process to enforce Christian ethics, just like that.
No, it's me asking if we could ask, and it's about me going and letting my opinion be known. It's about me going into the public and saying we should outlaw these things.
No, you're not
That's
going to the
wrong.
public and saying that. You're going to a legislator and
But I'm
telling
saying
them,
there's nothing
telling
wrong
them
with
to
using
outlaw
it.
and then enforcing it.
And there's nothing
right?
wrong as an individual doing that. My issue is not with individuals working within that system. My issue is with when we try to contort and try to put Christianity into certain systems that are not necessarily intrinsically Christian, or given the nature of the world, especially if a post-Christian society, of whether or not you're going to be able to do it. Because we've
Okay,
seen in
well, give me
history-
a society. Give me a society.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to beat the Dusk Veil.
I believe we are able to up several times. Crouching Tiger Temple Cellar in yellow. Next, we will fast travel to the Crouching Tiger Temple.
Ah, this is what I forgot. Okay. I forgot I have to go back there now. That's in chapter 1. Where's the Crouching Tiger Temple? It's in chapter 2. Okay. And we got to talk to Tiger Guy. Sorry, guys.
Cellar in Yellowwind Ridge to speak with Zoo Dog. Selecting the talk option should get us the special made bone strengthening pellet, which we will need to give to Chen. We will also unlock a new formula for a fortifying medicine. With that in hand, we can return to the north shore of the Bitter Lake Shrine and move along the shoreline once more. This time, however, we will find Chen a bit further along the shore than we did the first time around, near a small shack. Giving Long Chen the bone strengthening pellet will result in a small cutscene, and after that, we will be transported to the Zodiac Village.
Okay, that's what we're trying to do, is get the Zodiac Village thing. Okay.
In which Christian ethics would not be compatible if you had Force Doctrine on your side.
It's not about the issue of it's not compatible. It's the issue of whether or not you can, because again, in order to get to that point, a lot of the things we have to do is we have to win the culture war, and it's going to be very difficult to win the culture war when you're trying to
Oh.
tell people you're going to
Oh,
throw them
yeah.
in prison for watching porn.
Why?
Because what they're going to look at it is whenever you try to force someone to stop someone, they're going to double down and want to do it again. They're going to, unless they have that personal reason for seeing the error of their ways, they're not going to want to do something. So at that point, all you're
Wait,
doing is punishing. At that point, all you're doing is punishing them.
So if
You're
you
not
tell
giving
people
them
that
the
they can't
ability.
murder people, they're going to double down and
You're
murder
always going
people.
to position, and that's not the only thing that's here. Obviously,
Are they going
murder
to grape?
is-
Are they going to double down and grape if you tell them not to grape, John?
What's that?
Are they going to double down and grape if you tell them not to grape?
We're talking about certain.
John,
moral
are they going to
issues.
double down and steal if you tell them not to steal?
Some do, yeah.
Which ones? Which
The
people do you know? You know people who are like, I would never have stolen anything except those fuckers told me I wasn't allowed to. That's
You're
never
telling-
happened in your life, John. Listen.
You're
Here's what's
telling
never-
me that when
here's
you
something I'm going to tell you
you're telling
something
me
that's
you've
never
never seen
happened.
people buy alcohol underage.
It's never.
You've
This has
seen
never
people do
happened
that?
in the history of how drinking alcohol underage. Not immoral. Now, by the way, going back to this,
And it's
John,
illegal though.
it's not immoral. People ignore non-immoral laws constantly. They don't care. Theft is immoral. And so you're legislating against this immoral thing. And I'm going to tell you again, something that's never happened to you in your life. You've never met a single person who was like, I never would have stolen anything except that people told me I couldn't. That's never happened to you, John. And it's never going to, because it's absurd. It's an absurd position.
Okay. What I'm saying is there are people who will do, there are people that do lesser infraction crimes. And you'll also see people who, when you were telling them, because a lot of people are like the Coomers, they're always pushing back on that. Because what they're not realizing is why it's wrong. They don't want to be told they're wrong. And when you force that kind of position, instead of opening an opportunity of going and saying, "Can I tell you why pornography is wrong? Let me show you the evidence of what it does."
Yeah, nobody's doing that. Boy.
Yeah, it's working
only
real
people would
good.
Just tell people that pornography is wrong. That would certainly solve the problem.
It's not going to solve the problem because people are still going to do what they're going to do.
No. You see, John, the thing that's interesting is that obviously, if you legislate something, it's going to greatly reduce the amount of that thing which is done. That's why we have legislative processes, because they tend to work. They tend to work. If you legislate, hey, you can't make porn anymore in the United States, you think less people are going to make it or more people are going to make it?
The likelihood, if you do it, is there going to probably be less people doing it.
There's going to be a lot less people doing it. Now, let us assume that you were a person who was prone to pornography. You would have been one of those guys who, not you specifically, but let's just assume you would have been one of those guys who the second you saw pornography, you were hooked. Right? It was your thing. It was your jam. And you were going to go get yourself a nice San Franciscan coom pod. And bro, you were going to put on that VR helmet and you were going to coom. Okay? That was what your life would have been. But some asshole legislated that you couldn't make it anymore and you never saw the porn. Do you think your life would be any worse because you never saw the porn?
No, it would be better.
Obviously, their life would be better.
This
if
is
they
the
did.
same argument I make with
What the
alcohol.
fuck is the problem here? What is the fucking problem, John?
I'm worried about when we try to push Christian ideas into things like nationalism because of all the other things that come as a result of these things. When we try to over politicize Christianity, that there's a problem that I have with that. Because when it becomes focused outside of things of Christ, that's my concern.
Yeah, I understand the concern, John, but you haven't demonstrated it at all in this debate. So I don't really know where to go from here. We're out of time anyway for the debate portion. So
I would agree.
I'm fine basically ending it here and doing closing statements.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So we'll do closing. So since John went first, do you want to do? It would be Andrew goes first now, and then John ends it.
Yeah. Yep. Generally speaking, the person who opened first goes last. So I didn't have time to write a Ventura outro. I thought that would be twice as funny, right? But
It really would have.
but yeah, I wasn't able to do
That
an outro.
impression is bang on too, man.
So
Dude.
anyway, go back to the debate. No, I'm kidding. Just to wrap it up, thank you to Speakeasy, of course, for having me on the channel, organizing the debate. Thank you to John Moseman. I think that your kind of heart's in the right place, and you have a good general idea of wanting to see people follow Christian ethics willingly. I think that that's ultimately what his position is. Because if people are following it willingly, you don't have to legislate anything. That's this idea that he's really getting at with Christian anarchy. The thing is like, okay, it's a little utopian, but maybe I could even sign on for that. If we didn't have to kind of understand that we live in this godforsaken cesspool as it stands right now, and that one of the reasons we do is because Christians for too long have refused to legislate based on their own morality because they've been beaten over the head by secularists that's bad, that only secular ethics can win, that only secularists are the ones who can rule and rule fairly because they don't believe in this mischievous God figure who floods the earth and isn't nice to rainbow flag wielding Skittles eating people, right? This is the position. And I think ultimately, John, that your position of Christian anarchy is leading more towards that. It's leading more towards the idea of secularist control, where secularists basically control every aspect of governance in your life and the poisoning of future generations, because you just kind of roll over and take it and say, man, just let go and let God. Let go and let God. That's what
Jesus,
I'm
take
hearing
the
now.
wheel.
And you got to stop doing that, man, because the truth is, John, we need you over on this side. We need you to abandon this Christian anarchism fucking nonsense and start pushing people towards political office so that they can make some effective changes against these fucking coomers, degenerates, scumbags, lunatics, progressives, and whatever other archetype of absolute evil you can think of, okay? And it's good to put those pictures and images in people's heads because they know it's true, and you know it's true. So with closing, I just say this. I still don't really understand the position that well, but I think I understand it enough. And all I really needed to do was understand it enough. Basically, it just kind of reduces to this. Don't do shit. Pray a lot. Make sure that you put your trust and faith in God, which you're going to do anyway. but avoid the legislative process because, after all, you could institute some sort of laws towards moral systems and they could fail. Yeah, no shit. Oh, you could institute some type of laws and they have an adverse effect or a backlash you weren't expecting. Yeah, no shit. Yes, this is known in the political process that you may pass laws that have effects that you could not foresee. That doesn't mean that because you outlaw murder and some people who are innocent of murder get put in prison for murder, that you don't keep it outlawed. There's still a good argument to be made that, and by the way, John agrees with my argument here, that
What's up,
such
Abe?
laws should be there. And the reason that they should be there and the reason that we need those laws to be there is so that we can mitigate this kind of behavior in society that we don't like. And it's perfectly acceptable for Christians to legislate against any sort.
Catherine, what are you talking about? He can't claim morality, then say he wants to deny girls and women an education. I would deny most of the men an education. What are you talking about? Women don't need no books. What do you need a book for? I want to read books. That's feminism. Women reading books. Crazy. What's up, Music Firefly? Jeremy, why is my screen flashing like this? What is this? What's happening? You see this? Why is it doing this? Kitty's shadow muted. What is Kitty saying in these other chats to get damn muted? You don't say nothing crazy in my chats. Any chats that I've ever seen you in, you don't say anything crazy. So what are you getting? What are you like going to some secret like anti small hat people and just like F the Jays, they run everything. They control the world. Soros, stop. What are you doing to get I've said some crazy stuff in YouTube chats and I've never been shadow banned, never nothing. Dude, why is my screen flashing like this, Jeremy? I'm frustrated. I don't like it. I don't like what's happening. I don't know if I should restart the game, maybe. Why is it doing this?
Societal behaviors that they don't like, just like it's okay for anybody else to do that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And with that, I'll yield the rest of my time to John.
All right. John, whenever you are ready.
All right. I want to start off with a quote from Amon Hennessy, and he says, "A Christian anarchist does not depend on bullets or ballots to achieve his ideal. He achieves this ideal daily by a one-man revolution in which he faces a decadent and confused dying world."
He takes it. No, I don't mute myself. Go ahead.
You know, you're good. You're good. You can help yourself. I get it. And an acknowledgement, and I know it would seem wussified or yeah, you're just taking it, but it's not so much about what
Amon Hennessy, a Christian pacifist. Hold on 1 second. I gotta put some bookmarks in some places. Tolstoy, you going over here into this folder. This one. Where'd it go? Oh my God. Tolstoy, you go here. Dude, the Liver King tried to kill Joe Rogan. What the? Political philosophy. We'll read about all that. And then I got a bunch of videos. A bunch of stuff we need to read.
I don't like.
I'm not going to have time to get to it today. The debate's almost over. We got to go soon. I just wanted to unlock this hub town.
And what I want to not happen.
And there's a boss in here, so we're going to fight him before I go.
In the world, I want those bad things to cease being. But I also don't want us to sacrifice certain fundamental things. Christ understood that there are separations. He said, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar and give to me what is mine." And that is to understand that when he's also saying, is that he also said, "My kingdom is not of this earth." He said that if it were the case, my followers would go. I think, right, understandably so, and given a lot of the offenses that these Coomers and degens have and all the things that the Rainbow Skittle people do, it makes anyone, it's a reasonable father and reasonable man of conscience and morality, want to go nuts. But at the same time, I think we need to be careful of not being Peter Christians who, in the moment in the garden, are so overcome by this that they want to chop the guy's ear off, because there is a time and a place, and that is an understanding. One of the things I didn't get to
And
really
that
ask
wasn't the
question on,
time or the
but I will
place.
end this with my in my final
Because
statement
Jesus
here,
wanted him
here,
to respect the
is
authorities.
there was a time when God allowed the Babylonians to take over the Jerusalem, and it was for a purpose. He made Ezekiel watch what they were going to do, because he made Ezekiel watch things that were offending God and Ezekiel, which are what his own people were doing in the temple. Sometimes, yes, we need to adhere to certain authority. We have to adhere to certain rules. However, to be so focused on those things, like they were in the time of Jesus, there were everyone that was wanting Jesus to be a cultural and political leader. They were wanting him to be all these things to to make Israel great again. They wanted all these things to happen, but he came for a particular purpose. And in that, we start with the individual. That doesn't mean that by starting with the individual path and using cooperation and trying to reach people with love, that we don't start that process. Now, yes, ideally, it's not a process that's pragmatic. It's not a process that is going to win you anything right away. But it is a good ethical thing to have. Sometimes progress just for the sake of progress is not good. Doing something just for the sake of doing it is not good. It is good and right to sometimes ask questions and to assure that we're doing something for the right reasons, and remembering of all
And
things
then do it.
Our ruler is Christ himself, because there is no king but Christ. And that's what I'll end with.
All right. Awesome. So I did ask you both. I just want to make sure you guys are both okay with it, with the doing call-ins.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I do want to thank you both for coming and doing this debate. It was awesome. I can't lie. A little bit into it, I was like, oh shit, I don't know if this is gonna go very long. But it went the whole hour. And it was actually a good debate. So
Okay. That's that. While we fight this boss, I got a few other things to listen to. I want to listen to the...
You are tithing your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you've...
This is Matthew 23, 23, and 24. So this guy, if we deliver him like 15 seeds, I don't even know how you deliver him seeds. So this is Matthew 23, 23 to 24. What is the Sermon on the Mount exactly? Is this Matthew 23? Matthew 5 through 7. Okay.
neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness.
Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law. So they tithe, they pay taxes, they worry about things like that, the lawmakers, but they don't worry about justice and mercy and faithfulness, which is faithfulness is the leadership, justice and mercy are the law. So that's the law and leadership. That's politics.
Jesus even went after politicians himself. Who were the politicians in his day? The Pharisees, right? You say, well, they're the religious leaders. Yes, but they were also the political leaders. Some of them were on the Sanhedrin, the Jewish ruling council, kind of their Supreme Court, because Rome delegated most of the day-to-day political activity to this body, this Supreme Court. And they were on this court, so they made judgments. They enforced the law. These were the politicians. And what did Jesus say to them in Matthew chapter 23? By the way, if you think Jesus was always a sweet guy, you have not read Matthew chapter 23. He goes after these people. Here's just 2 verses. He says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and...
It's almost like Jesus gets a little political here. He's calling out the politicians, and this is why I'm not arguing that all politics are good. All politicians are good. All governments are good. I'm not arguing that. I don't have to argue that. But Jesus gets a little political here with the politicians. He calls them out on the stuff they're doing wrong. He condemns them. He tells them that they should be focused on justice and mercy and faithfulness, being faithful to God and doing what's just for the people, being merciful. But mercy doesn't mean you just let everybody get away with everything. You have discernment. Sometimes justice is punishing people. Justice, is giving them what's due to them. But you be merciful. You can be both. You can dole out justice and you can be merciful at the same time if you're faithful.
And cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. Just a little bit of humor at the end there, right? What they were doing, they were straining their water to make sure they wouldn't eat bugs or drink bugs when they had their water. He's saying, you're straining out gnats, but you're swallowing a whole camel, the biggest animal in the Middle East that was an unclean animal. You're swallowing the whole thing because you're majoring in the minors. You are tithing your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. Now, what do you think Jesus would say to our politicians today who are telling us what light bulbs we can and can't use, but they won't say, don't murder your children? Are we neglecting the weightier matters of the law? Yeah, I think we are. Jesus.
We can upgrade armor now.
People. Now, if there's more important matters of the law, what does that mean? There must be lesser important matters of the law, right? In other words, when you put all this together, when you put the greatest commandment, greater love, greater sin, greater judgment, greater knowledge equals greater punishment, and more important matters of the law, what are you getting? You're getting what is known as a moral hierarchy. That some things are more important than others.
Yo, these were sold out everywhere.
A moral hierarchy. Jesus got a little political. Seems like Jesus got a little political. Okay, this Got Questions is very milquetoast Christianity. It's just basic, but they're good because they give you all the Bible verses, and then I can go in and form my own arguments with those Bible verses. I don't have to just go off what Got Questions says. But let's say some base stuff.
I'll answer your question: how should a Christian view politics? Then afterward, as always, I'll share some helpful resources, so stick around until the end. If there is anything that will spark debate, if not an outright argument, it is a discussion involving politics, even among believers. As followers of Christ, what should be our attitude and our involvement with politics? It has been said that religion and politics don't mix, but is that really true? Can we have political views outside of the considerations of our Christian faith? The answer is no, we cannot. Our faith should inform our political views. The Bible gives us two truths regarding our stance toward politics and government. The first truth is that the will of God permeates and supersedes every aspect of life. It is God's will that takes precedence over everything and everyone. God's plans and purposes are fixed, and His will is invaluable. What He has purposed, He will bring to pass, and no government can thwart His will. In fact, it is God who sets up kings and deposes them. Daniel chapter 2, verse 21. Because the Most High is sovereign over the kingdoms of men and gives them to anyone He wishes. Daniel chapter 4, verse 17. An understanding of this truth will help us see that politics is merely a method God uses to accomplish His will.
I probably just wasted a lot of money
doing that. Power,
probably shouldn't have done that.
God means it for good, working all things together for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Romans chapter 8, verse 28. Second, government is not the remedy for all our social ills. We are not saved through politics. Only God can save, and He provides the answer to society's problems.
I wasn't even listening for the verses.
Jesus or any of the apostles schooling believers on how to reform the pagan world of its idolatrous, immoral, and corrupt practices via the government. The apostles never called for believers to demonstrate civil disobedience, to protest the Roman Empire's unjust laws or brutal schemes. Instead, they preached the gospel and lived in a way that gave evidence of the gospel's transforming power. There is no doubt that government
And see, this is where, like, John will kind of get the idea of Christian anarchy. There is a lot of stuff that supports this idea of Christianity with the disciples and with Jesus, but that's still a political philosophy.
Is necessary, and our responsibility is to obey the laws and be good citizens. God has established all authority, and he does so for our
God has established all authority. Give me that verse. Got questions?
benefit, to commend those who do right. 1 Peter chapter 2, verses
1 Peter 2, 13 through 15.
13 through 15. It is the government's
Don't be a
responsibility
Peter
to rule,
Christian.
hopefully for our good, to collect taxes and to keep the peace. See Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 8.
I
Good
already got
citizenship
that.
includes taking seriously our duty to be informed and vote for leaders who promote Christian principles. Where we have a voice, we should exercise the right to vote. Candidates or proposals at odds with the Bible's teaching on life, family, marriage, or faith should never be supported. See Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34. Those who uphold biblical values should be helped. Even as we advocate for godly values and vote for principled leaders, we recognize that our hope for morality in the culture does not depend on politicians. A nation's hope for change is not to be found in any country's ruling class.
See, I agree with all this, but it does depend on a political ideology or a political philosophy so that we can decide who we vote for, or so we can decide if we got to run away or hide or fight or just take part in the system and try to affect it in a good way.
People need the Lord. The government has its purpose, and so does the church. Our primary mission lies not in changing the nation through political reform, but in changing hearts through
Yeah,
the
and
word
the
of
church
God.
is political
Our
in
Christian
itself.
mandate is to spread the gospel of Christ. Yes, we take a stand against the sins of our time, and we advocate for political policies that would help curb wickedness.
We fight in the big
Through it all,
lion with the
pray
big
that
sword,
individual
Buster
hearts are
sword.
changed by Christ.
He
Only
got a
as
Buster
individuals
sword.
are transformed through the new birth will the culture begin to reflect godliness. Believers throughout the ages have lived and even flourished under antagonistic, repressive pagan governments. This was especially true of
We're going to pause while we fight this guy because I don't think I can pause in the middle of the fight. Oh, it broke. Why did it shatter immediately? Did he break it? Oh, that didn't work. I'm just trying to read him right now. That's going to be big. Oh, he hit me with it. And it about killed me. Oh, there's multiple. Wait, I want to beat him. Oh, wait. Dang it. So I have to keep... I can beat you, buddy. Don't think I'm playing. We don't need the cutscene. Let's go. Let's get it. You got too much cutscene action, my boy. Oh, he won. He won that exchange. Gotcha, bitch. Oh, there's a big one that follows up after that. Oh, he disappeared. Damn it. Is that like an auto kill? Ah. Alright, we're gonna have to try this a few times. This video is almost over, though.
of the first century believers who sustained their faith under merciless political regimes that created immense cultural stress. They understood that they were the light of the world and the salt of the earth. They adhered to Paul's teaching
See?
to obey their governing authorities, even honor, respect, and pray for them. And they trusted in the protection that only God supplies. Political entities are not the savior of the world. The salvation for all mankind has been manifested in Jesus Christ. God knew that our world needed saving long before any national
All right.
government was
Thanks,
ever founded. He
GotQuestions.org.
demonstrated to the world that redemption.
We get it. I don't think I can get hit by that attack and the fight just ends. You're not that tough, my boy. Let's get it. We're going to try something different this time. You running? What are you running? Oh. So, like, any of these attacks, if he hits me with them, it ends the fight? Or am I just not strong enough yet? I didn't mean to do that. He breaks out of... Oh, this is the guy that you can't immobilize him. You make him stronger when you immobilize him. I forgot. Fuck. I'm out of health. Fuck, you got me. Ah, this guy's tough. I might need to wait a little while to fight him. We're not stuck and advancing. We're just going back to... I mean, it may need to wait a bit before I fight this guy. He's beatable. I think all my stuff gets refilled. Yeah. Try one more time, and then I got to go to bed. We can continue through the ice place and leave this place and come back here and fight this guy later. This is an optional fight, but you get his spirit after you beat him. I got a lot of notes wrote down. Seem to think I'm actually being serious with my comments. So don't immobilize him. See, I don't even... I don't know, I think I'm gonna end the game, and I don't know why it's glitchy like this. I'm getting frustrated. I think I have the graphics set pretty low. Challenge him one more time. Oh yeah, fuck, I keep forgetting. I think multi-form makes him stronger too. Like, he gets stronger if I use... Fuck, I wasted my special. Why does he just keep attacking me? I was trying to heal. I couldn't get away from him. All right. Playing games with me chatting again. It's working. All right, we'll fight this guy later. I am going to travel back to where I was at, though. Hopefully resetting the game fixes this. I don't know what's going on. It's irritating me, though. I think I was here at the Brook of Bliss. There's this whole big area to explore where I'm at. I don't want to miss anything. We're doing the fox thing. We got to run to the temple. I don't see any flashing here. It'll flash black. It's flickering black. I see it on the OBS. So it should be happening for you guys too. See? It just did it. And it just did it again. I don't remember where I was going. This place is confusing. Oh, shit. Chill out, Brody. I don't think this is the way. Show me the way. I hate these stupid fucking bats. I don't know. I saw a flicker that time. Yeah, why is it flickering? Why is it doing that? I think it's a monitor. Something with the monitor. I don't know. The game was freaking out a little while ago. Like the ground was all patchy and squarey. I think I'm going backwards. I have no idea where I'm going. Okay, well, this is the guy we found on the ground. He dying. He ain't gonna make it. Like to see homos naked. We came down this way. The bridge, the shrine. I think we need to go down this way. There's a waterfall with a bush and sparkles. Oh, there's a dude down there. That's like a boss type dude. It's an elite. I'll fight an elite real quick. Oh, damn it. There's a bat. We got to kill him quick because the stupid bat is going to mess with me. I'll take a new spirit. You could disconnect the monitor entirely and we'll see the game. Just you won't. So it's not. So you're saying it's not the monitor, it's the game. Because you're seeing it. If it was the monitor, you wouldn't be seeing it on the stream. Yeah. That. Usually when there's little frogs, there's a big frog somewhere. We just killed a big frog, though. Maybe this is where we fought the big frog? I don't know if I want to go down here. So we just go down here. I feel like this is not the right way. I feel like this is a boss fight. I feel like we found a shrine. That's a perfect time to end. Okay, it's 1:30. I gotta get out of here. But I want to look around a bit. This looks like a boss fight. What the heck is this? How is there not a boss fight in here? What a waste of a giant open space. I can't feel my face. Wishing for an embrace. There's nothing here. There's not a meditation spot. There's nothing. What's this giant big room? How you gonna just put me in a giant big room with nothing? There's got to be something here. Okay, well, whatever. We saved at this shrine. Watermelon field? I don't see no dang watermelon. Towers of Karma. Mindfulness Cliff. Precept Corridor. I feel like there's more. But anyway, I'm going to go, guys. I'll be back for VK tonight. Somebody will. I'll see you guys later. I got a lot of notes. I got some more files. Look at this damn bald spot on my head. You put that dang hat back on. All right. I'll see you guys tonight. Thanks for hanging out. We still got more debate prep to do. I just wanted to watch that debate again, write some notes, gather some files and stuff I need to do research on. Next time, we'll probably just be reading stuff about Christian anarchism and politics and political theology and political philosophy in the next one. And then I'm going to write a rough draft in the notebook. And then sometime next week, I'll type it up. I'm like that on my games. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. I got to figure out what's wrong with this game. God bless you guys. Let me see if there's anybody streaming we know. Let's go to Nick. All right. Wait, was that Cat? IBX Toy Cat is not that cat. That's a different cat. All right. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. God bless.